Right.
Mustache? No. Sideburns? No. Goatee? Maybe. Beard? Beard! Do you feel alone? Do you feel neglected? Not doing too well with the ladies? Well, I've got the solution for you. Low self-esteem? Grow a beard. Afraid to follow your dreams? Grow a beard. Are you lonely and sad? Grow a beard. You wanna look good and plaid? Grow a beard. Are you working out? Grow a beard. Did your car break down? Grow a beard. Ice caps melting? Grow a beard. Are you stuck in the middle of nowhere and you need to make an important phone call but the battery's dead and you can't find an outlet to plug in your charger? Grow a beard. Grow the beard, feed the beard, brush the beard, manscape the beard, stroke the beard, love the beard, fear the beard, obey the beard, obey the beard, obey the beard, behold the beard, obey the beard, accept the beard, obey the beard, respect the beard, obey the beard.
Oh my God. Becky, look at his beard. It's just so beard.
Impress your dates with the beard. Eat a steak with the beard. Chop down trees with the beard. Crush your enemies with the beard. Catch a fish with the beard. Roundhouse kick with the beard. Troll the net with the beard. Chia pet? Chia beard. Drive a truck with the beard. Try your luck with the beard. Arm wrestle with the beard. Teenage Mutant Ninja beard. Pet the doggy with the beard. Pledge allegiance to the beard. Can't grow a beard, then buy a beard. Do you have a beard? Then grow more beard.
You need to shave this thing.
Shut up, Grandma. Grow a beard. Dump in the beard. Drink to the beard. Cause beards are good and scruff. Obey the beard. Behold the beard. Obey the beard. Accept the beard. Obey the beard. Respect the beard. Obey the beard. I was so empty and lost inside till I grew you. I put my faith in my facial hair to get me through. Well, I can defy the odds again and again with you on my chin. With every moment you grow closer and closer to my heart. I love you, beard.
If you love it so much, why don't you just marry it?
Do you take this beard to be your lawfully wedded beard? For bearded or for worse, in scruffiness and in beard, till shave do you part?
I beard. Abe Lincoln had a beard. ZZ Top, epic beard. Dimebag Darrell, Nettle beard. Chuck Norris, kick-ass beard. #1 making beard. Chewbacca is a beard. Santa Claus, Jesus Christ, God has a beard. Obey the beard. Obey the beard. Obey the beard. Obey the beard.
It's Beard Talk Live, everyone. Thanks for listening and tuning in to our lovely little, what is this, a podcast, technically?
Yeah.
It's,
No, I fucking love the podcast method of communication. Like, really simple syndication.
Yeah.
It is exactly what it says. It is really simple and apparently completely, impractical to stop.
When I first heard the term podcast, I was like, I got to go look this up. How does one cast for pods or whatever, right? You know, I went and looked it up, and I was like, oh, so it's really just you recording something and putting it online and people listening to it or downloading it.
Yeah.
In its basic form, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And like to your point, RSS, really simple syndication.
Mm-hmm.
RSS is an accurate descriptor of what exactly happens. So
Yeah. Do you remember the phrase, oh, it's a syndicated television show? Ooh, syndicated.
that word actually still carries some weight. If you tell somebody that, on Saturday nights I appear on a nationally syndicated radio
It's
broadcast,
true.
Free Talk Live, they're like, oh, that sounds more impressive than like,
Okay.
I have a podcast. Because everybody has a fucking podcast now, right?
So this is what's fucking retarded about this. So syndicated. Ooh, smooth, corporate, powerful.
If
Yeah,
they were
it's
a metal
controlled
band, they would
structure.
be Syndicator.
Syndicator. Yeah. But if you work for a syndicate, well, don't put that on your resume.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're trying to go to work for perhaps a competitive syndicate.
Well, and so what would a syndicate be? Well, everything actually has some level of syndication in that different businesses work together to make a thing.
That's true.
That's literally all the word means.
What we failed to mention anything of actual relevance to the introduction of this particular program, but outside of the name, I think we did say welcome to Beard
We did.
Talk Live. Episode 16.
Mm-hmm.
We're old enough to drive. Wait, no, that'd be 16 years. Well, if 16 were
That's when you can
if
get your
16
learner's permit.
episodes were podcaster years, then yeah, we would be old enough to drive. I'm just making these things up. There are no rules.
Now I'm just thinking about how subjective what an episode is.
If it's me getting really angry at you for like 5 minutes, am I having an episode?
I could describe it as that.
Where does the word episode come from? What's the etymology of that?
I don't know.
Me neither. I've never looked
You
it up.
stumped my etymology.
Perhaps one day I'll be in front of a machine in which I could, inquire all of the world's knowledge to find the answer to said query.
Hocus. And
But,
furthermore,
But until that
Poke
time
somebody.
comes, I think I'm just going to continue to do the show. What else? Oh, yeah. The telephone number, because we do take calls. 603-283-6160. We've got somebody on hold right now. We'll get to them momentarily. In the studio for Beard Talk Live, it's we're down a beard. We've got 33% less beard. I don't know. Maybe a little more than that.
there's a
His
paucity
beard's
of
bigger than
beards.
mine. Yeah, we're absent some beard. We hope for more beard soon, but if it doesn't come, we'll make do with the beardos that are here, and that is myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass.
And Pigless Mountaineer.
16 episodes.
No one can actually understand that any time that I say it, apparently.
Well, and I was, when you're like Pigless, when I was like, what is your, when I was trying to write it down to make a note of who was on what episodes.
Now, the last person that announced that they had realized what my name was, I had to
you had to
slow it
explain
down.
You had to explain it to me.
Because I thought you said Dickless Mountaineer. Oh. And I'm like, there's no way that this guy's claiming to be Dickless. Which is fair.
Oh, man.
Good thinking there.
Wow. That never crossed my mind, but that is hilarious.
A beakless mountaineer. I didn't know mountaineers had beaks. Kind of mythological world am I living in?
When you said it, all I could remember was, do you remember The Price is Right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that mountain climbing game? And it keeps going up and up and up, and if it goes too far, it falls. That's what I thought of. Except that has a peak, so I don't know why I thought of that. But I was just like, Peakless Mountaineer. You mean like the Price is Right game? That's where my brain went.
Okay, so imagine that, but without the part where it falls off, and with like metal.
Oh,
There you go.
Instead of okay.
Yeah.
We should get this out of the way. The 7 words:
Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits.
All right, very well.
Syncopated?
Yes. Perhaps one day we'll hire like vocal coaches and we can, spring a harmony or something. I don't know.
All right.
It might be too much to ask, but we'll see. You never know where the beard will take you.
Well, if you don't ask, how are you supposed to get it?
Do you have? I was going to ask this because, like, we rarely actually talk about beards here on Beard Talk Live. But do you notice, do you have a mark in time in your memory banks, like before I had beard and after I had beard?
I actually have so when you grow your hair long, or dreadlocks especially, or when you grow out a really long beard, people very often ask how long it took to grow.
Yes.
And so my sense of time is about as bad as my remembrance of names, which is like legendary bad. Yeah. So there is actually a very specific date of when I shaved last.
So do you remember, like, when you're going through your memories, do you sometimes remember something and then out of the blue be like, that's before I had the giant beard? Like, does that ever come up?
Oh, I just never shaved.
Okay.
Like, I trimmed. Like I tried it a couple times.
Believe it or not.
Oh, I had to. Oh, one of the worst parts ever. I shaved it off to get a corporate job. I think it was at a fast food station.
That's a corporate job?
I know. Well, no, any job where you're working for a corporation is a corporate job.
I get it. I know. I've been there and I've done it. I've had to bite the bullet and, like, believe it or not, the captain at one point had hair. It was not short. I had to bite that bullet, and I'm so sad that I did, because then, of course, later on in life, I go bald, right? And I'm like, it's time to just shave it all off and, be a human band, roll on, and life will be great. And I have no problem.
Bite the bullet, be the bullet.
Like, to be quite honest with you, I started getting laid more often when I shaved my head than when I had long hair. And I was a musician type, right? So, like, you would think that'd just be like a, not a shoe-in, but like a high on the list of things that, like, chicks looking to bang rocker dudes would look for is long hair, right?
Right.
But I shaved my head, man, and, like, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, should have done this years ago.
Well, I mean, if it's metal and you've got the beard, then it works perfectly.
The beard, I agree, just because I get a 5 o'clock shadow at noon or something, 1 o'clock. And so,
one of those, huh?
Like, well, and it takes a while for me to actually shave. Not like long, a little longer than probably a normal dude, but not so long that you're like, dude, you're like a girl in there, right? But, like, it takes, and so I was just tired of, like, I wanted to be able to shave and get the fuck out, right? Because, you're in a crunch for time trying to get to work in the morning, whatever, that kind of a thing. And so I was like, maybe if I grew the sideburns and the goatee and I just had to shave all around that, like the neck and the cheeks and all that, that would cut my shaving time in half. And I could get out of the bathroom faster when I'm, because you wake up 15 minutes before you got to be out the door to get to your job or whatever, right? You're on that, like, now time to get up and go. Let's shower and shave, get the fuck to work, right?
Right.
And so you're trying to, like, and so with me, I'm always looking for a more efficient way to do things. And so I was like, if I just, grow some burns and a goatee, I only have to shave half the mass. So it'd be like only mowing half of your lawn, right? Or figuring out how to mow less of your lawn so that you had to work less, right? It just seemed to make sense to me. And so that's how it became. And so now it just stays. I'm really digging it, though, man. Yeah. Like, I put up, I had the beanie on, right? I got this, like, I don't know, it looks like a Brooklyn, fucking beanie cap, like something the Italians would wear in old school Brooklyn. And then I put my hoodie up on top of that. And then I just caught a reflection of myself in somebody's car as I was walking on the street, parked car, and looked in the window, and I was like, I do look wizardly. Because the hoodie's got the point at the top, the behind it or whatever. And so, I was like,
it's like, if I had a staff, they would absolutely assume that.
I should get like a scepter or something, right? Something that looks wizardly. Just walk around town with it all the time.
I actually do advise that practice just to see what it's like. Just spend like a day or a week or something walking everywhere with a staff.
Would you like to see my staff? There's a pickup line. Would you like to meet my staff? That's old Tom Likas bit from Tom Likas is a radio guy.
And that's one of the... So I know that part of that is that they are literally accepting that you have a weapon everywhere.
Your beard is a weapon?
No, your staff.
The scepter. Right, yeah.
Yeah, or the scepter.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's... So literally, and this blew my mind when I figured it out, the reason that the scepter exists as the symbol of nobility, of rulership, of being the king. So if you have a sword, you kill people. But if you have a club, then you can beat that filthy peasant. He'll learn his lesson and go back to working for you.
Let's take care of this right now. Beard Talk Live. Who the fuck is this?
Pleased to be helping you, Sahib. I helped you to hunt a giant man-killer. When will I be paid the whiskey money which I was promised?
All right. Major Payne from Michigan is calling. I have a question for both you, Major, and you, Peakless Mountaineer.
Shoot.
And that is, I've flown in the last 3 years 3 times. Pretty sure. Not more than 4, but I'm pretty sure it was 3. And what I did not see, not Nazi, but what I did not see every time I flew, I saw people in like wheelchairs, right? Folks helping, pushing the wheelchair, that kind of a thing. But I did not see anybody with a cane. Now, I do own a cane. I once had a back thing, and I needed the cane to walk for a period of time while I was on medication and healing. And so I do own a cane, and it's one of these, it's a dark color, but it's the aluminum old man cane that you see at like the Rite Aid with the big rubber
the
handle on the
split
end.
at the bottom.
Doesn't have the 4-split, single foot.
Okay.
But it's that same style, but with just the single foot, right? And it's a dark color, so it doesn't quite look like an old man cane. And I like wearing dark colors, so it kind of matches my outfits or whatever. But I didn't see one person with a cane in any of those times that I flew. So I'm wondering, can you fly with a cane?
That's a very good question.
I have not an answer for you, but I knew they used to make a cane with a foil inside of it.
Oh, they fucking used to. Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how many of those I've seen? They're great.
Yeah, okay, so it was created long ago. Corrupt me. My bad.
No, man, you can get everything on the internet, and those are awesome.
Also,
of course you can get them on the internet.
Major,
of course, it depends on the quality you want to buy.
I don't think we could corrupt you either, Major.
Spring steel. True spring steel, it has to be properly heat treated.
You know what's a great way to harvest spring steel? The springs that are on your car are spring steel.
Yeah.
So that was an absolutely great way to harvest some steel that you could use to make blades.
Oh.
I know that. You know how to make magnetic steel?
Yeah, you need the right combination of traits to make good steel for swords.
How do you make magnetic steel?
Magnetic steel?
It's all about the carbon, dude. It's all about the carbon.
Don't you need a magnet to make a magnet?
Magnetic steel, too. You can make magnetic steel. You just got to lay it out north to south. I think it takes 3 heat treatments, if I remember correctly.
To orient the particles in all the same direction?
Yeah.
Yep.
Technically,
you line molecules.
That's interesting because magnetism is the basis of audio tape. This is the pre-digital era when everything was on, cassette, 8-track, VHS, reel-to-reel, multi-track tape, 2-inch 24-track tape, that kind of a thing. And so magnetism is how sound is reproduced, and all you would do is put a needle, quote unquote, down on some tape and cause the magnetic particles that are floating in oil, by the way, to be reoriented in such a way that when you play it back, it reproduces the music that was played into it. And
all right, let's get back to steel.
Right, and so it sounds like making magnetic steel follows that same process, except the process for making magnetic steel would be the process one would use to erase a large quantity of tape.
Well, let's just get back to making quality steel. If you take low-carbon steel, and I know you've all seen Smiths beating it on a hammer when it's red hot and all the sparks flying out of it.
Yep.
That's the impurities.
Yep.
And the samurai...
Oh, and just to let the listeners in, low-carbon steel is exactly what it sounds like. It's steel with a low amount of carbon in it. Because the difference between iron and steel is the carbon, so it's got to have some amount. Go ahead.
So anyway, in the first two quenchings of making a proper sword, you want to use dirty oil because it has a high amount of carbon in it.
Right.
Stuff been run through your crankcase. Got all that foul antiquity of the dinosaurs. It get sucked into it. But there were so many tricks to the samurai sword. They used to lay a thin clay along the side of it, when they were doing the final heat treatment, and it would make the spine weaker than the blade, so it would bend. The samurai swords were more badass than the fucking the broadsword.
Yeah, you need a different temper for either the inside or the back of a blade. So if you want your sword to, because it can either be like hard and it can be sharp, but the things that are hard and sharp break easy, or it can be malleable, but you can't really put an edge on something malleable. So if you want to do it properly, you have to have either a center or a back of your blade, depending on if it's a single or double-sided blade, that has some spring to it.
Yep. So I called into you guys. Originally, we were talking about China a while back.
Okay.
And Year of the Tiger. And that's what kind of reminded me of.
It's the Year of the Tiger.
Yeah, but you remember I called and I said, "When will you give me this claim?" Which I was promised to hunt the great man killer, right? And all of the old movies were about the great white hunter trying to chase down the man killer.
Okay.
And
Ghost
then
in the
what
Darkness
happened?
style,
now the beast has come to rest. The Year of the Tiger is upon China. And I thought I was hoping it was going to be the Year of the Dragon, because they had created this beast.
Well,
But a man killer is a man killer, and I reckon that's good enough.
Well, they both have a lot of that like young energy, rapid change to them.
Yeah.
I got better news. How about free beer? How about free range burros being able to breed?
The problem that I have with free beer is usually if the claim turns out to be true, and that is you go to some place that's offering free beer, it is usually the shittiest of fucking beers.
Well, of course.
Now, this is Budweiser, and this is going to be
You
donated.
rest your case.
Whoever wins the world desert.
I mean,
No,
there's worse, but you got to look for it.
This is Budweiser, dude. I'm talking about donated beer from the World Cup.
Oh, I know. And we covered this one on
It's
the
an
show,
awfully
actually.
big cup if everybody in the world has to drink from it.
Yeah, so Qatar's a Muslim country, and Muslims don't drink. So yeah, you can't sell alcohol in a Muslim country.
Weird.
But they made a contract with Budweiser to sell their product during all.
Well, that's
these
kind of
games.
on Budweiser, honestly.
Well, I don't know, but anyway,
Because
Budweiser.
seriously, like,
Let's cut to the fucking
Budweiser
chase here,
produced
Major.
millions-
How do I get some of this free fucking beer?
Well, I don't know, because the U.S.
They're distributing it at the World Cup.
We're not.
So you know
gonna
that thing
get
that
our-
everyone else in the world cares about, and Americans are like, "Oh, right, soccer."
Let Major answer for a
Oh,
minute.
come on now, dude. Hear me out.
I'm
But
listening.
U.S. lost their standing for the World Cup today. Whoever wins the World Cup will get all
Is
this
Mexico still
Budweiser
in?
donated to their country.
Ah.
Oh.
Sweet. So the World Cup comes with a giant beer prize. That's actually way cooler than the original
It's
story, I
the
think.
biggest damn party you ever saw. I think it's cool.
Look, I know the Olympics.
Oh man, that city's gonna fucking burn, dude.
I know the Olympics have kept adding things as quote sports unquote to the litany of things that they now have at the Olympic Games. What is it, every 4 years, right? Have they added some sort of a beer drinking competition? Because I know they have like Olympic bowling now, right? I'm like, well, okay, I guess technically bowling is a sport, you know?
No, they have not added beer drinking, nor have they added like Indian burning.
These are all sports I might partake in so far. Let's see if the list grows.
Is darts in yet? Because I could totally see them adding darts.
If bowling's in, I would think darts would have to be in.
You know,
Major, are darts an Olympic sport?
I do not know.
I'm happy that pistol is. That's great.
Oh, all the shooting sports should be included. All the shooting. Javelins. Dude, when I was a young warthog, I could stick a double-bladed axe from about 35 feet.
Nice.
And we used to have what we call the Saxon test. And that's where the blade sinks and the hilt is dead against the trunk. So you can literally climb these.
I know how hard it is to throw a thing like that.
The fucking gates, dude.
Wow, did we just include a visual element to our show?
The cameras were not switching, and one of our crack team of producers noticed and has now corrected the issue. So for those of you tuning in, watch that freetalklive.com.
Yeah, I know how unbelievably hard it is to sink it to the hilt by throwing it.
I did find some information, at least as of April 27th of this year, 2022, darts is not yet an Olympic sport. So,
you know, I think that might be their line. They'll be like, okay, no, nothing more traditional as a stupid manliness piss contest than darts.
Darts, we're almost an Olympic sport.
Whereas, like, I can imbibe more of this poison than you without passing out has existed for longer than humans, I think.
If that's your barometer of, like, what a sport is or isn't, is it in the Olympics? Then it's not a sport, right? Yeah, or it is a sport. If it's not, then it's not. So,
no.
like, if that's your barometer and somebody's like, hey, man, you play darts? No, I don't like sports. Well, luckily for you, darts ain't a sport. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey,
okay, so chess is not a sport. I'm sorry. It's a game. But it's not a sport.
Right, chess is in the Olympics, isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
Major, are you an Olympic sport?
Dominant.
What do you, if you... Go ahead.
You have to have a predominant blade. You can't be a little prick and make the Olympics. That's a dart.
If you were an Olympic sport, what would your sport be, Major?
If I was an Olympic sport.
Yeah, like what's an Olympic sport that you could win today?
Damn. You sure don't.
Well, since everyone is, of course, equal in their ability to be an Olympic athlete. And it doesn't take any extra
I'm just saying,
time.
What I'm saying is everybody has a forte of some kind, right? Everybody's good at something, right? Here's an Olympic sport I could probably win. I could probably play electric guitar continuously longer than, like, most people. Right, I had pretty high endurance for the length of time that I could continue to play. Right, so like, I'd get together with a band, we'd practice for 45 minutes, hour and a half, depending on the band, and what we were trying to cover. But then I'd be like, "Hey, do you guys want to jam some more?" No, we're done. Kind of a thing. Like, but I was just getting warmed up. Right.
I reckon we're both well calloused on different fortes. I've been slinging a hammer most of my life, so yeah, I think if I had to try to regain one of my ancient skills, I would take the Cherokee tomahawk.
All right, or how about like if there was just a continuous 2x4 passing in front of you, and you had to put a nail in, every 30 seconds? Could you pull that off for like a long period of time?
You talking about with a gun or a hammer?
Oh, hammer. You said you swung a hammer, so I'm just like the simplest maneuver. Putting a nail into a 2x4. Next one comes in front of you. Next one comes in front of you. Next one comes. Could you just be production style like that?
Well, it takes 3 swings, even with a good heavy hammer, to sink a 16-penny nail. Even if you're good.
No.
And you best not miss. So if the thing's moving, that's problematic.
All right.
It's a production line thing.
Yeah.
If it holds still for a second and a half, yeah, I could probably do it.
Okay. So the machine in front of you literally holds a 2x4 still for you for a minute, whatever it is. It probably shorter than a minute, but like,
Dude, if you can't sink a nail in a minute, you're fired. I'll tell you that right now.
Major Payne, the foreman.
I've got it.
The foreman on the construction site of Beard Talk Live.
So this combines both of your suggestions for the Olympic sport.
Okay.
So on the one hand, it will be a mind-altering substance endurance competition, and a duration music competition. So we just get increasing levels of drugs and drumming.
Ooh.
And I can hold a beat on an Olympic level doing that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know what a cajon is?
A what?
A cajon.
Yeah, it's my left nut.
It's a square wooden box the shape of a small home speaker that like you could sit on. And depending on where you tap on it, it makes different tones. It's a musical instrument. People will actually bring them to like gigs where there's like a one acoustic guitar singer, and then they'll just put a mic in front of this thing, and it'll sound kind of like drums. It keeps a beat for you. It's got great sounds. It's got different tones depending on where you tap on the thing. So this sounds like something that you would be cut out for. Tapping on the cajon, keeping a beat for a period of time.
Yeah, mostly I did djembe. Now, I would also like to see this happen and be wrong, because that would be so fucking awesome. Just like everyone in the world who wants to compete in this in one place.
So now I have visions of the movie Beer Fest dancing through my head. If you've not seen the movie.
I hate it when people tap on my cojones. Makes them swell.
Cajon, not cojones.
So the bit about the boot actually has a foundation in reality.
It's true, yes.
The mead is traditionally taken by a horn. And if you hold the horn backwards, then it will absolutely go straight into your eyes.
Right in your face.
Mm-hmm.
I love the name of the bar, the Schnitzengigel. Right? It's like, that's a good name for the bar. I recently discovered, so I had in my head, I had the imaginary series of bars, all named Poor. Like here in town, we've got one called the Poor House. And I was like, oh, how about the Poor Decision or the Poor Bastards? Well, apparently there is a Poor Decision. There's probably more than one now that I think about it. And I found that out, I don't know, last week or something. I'm like, oh.
So I think if you did that, you would be asking for trouble. It's kind of like when people name a pet Loki. It's like, oh, really? You've decided that your pet should be referred to as a trickster god. Okay.
Yeah, there's that.
Oh, and it misbehaves a lot. Shocking.
Well, it's like when you name your daughter Hope or Faith. You're
asking for it.
I knew a girl who had a horrendous child. I don't like to say that about children, but I mean, man, I've known some. This child was a product of, I don't even know, got to be abuse and, perhaps some mental illnesses and things of that nature. Just an absolute
Captain,
demon of a kid. Kid. Hang on. Hang on.
Before. Terrible.
Kid was 5 years old, and like nobody could contain him. Nobody could, discipline him appropriately to get him to behave in any way, shape, or form. And the poor girl broke down. She's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I got to tell you, it's kind of your fault. You named him Levi, and that's an anagram for evil. And she was like, no, that can't possibly be it. And I'm like, shrug, arm shrug, and like literally, man, I have seen evil incarnate, and like this kid wasn't like something happened to him to make him the way he was, in my opinion. I don't know what it would have been, but
and Levi got punished with priesthood. So, like, if you're going to name a kid after a biblical story, know which story you're naming your kid after. Like, the whole thing was you fucked somebody over, and as a punishment for that, you will no longer be allowed to own land. You will now serve the rest of the community. You will be dependent on them for your food.
Major?
I was an altar boy, and I've got 12 years on you, Captain, so I've seen a hell of a lot of ugly, and
I believe it.
I don't think I would say that the church subscribed my mind to evil, but it most certainly did open it up to the relevancy of the impertinence of man. I don't know how to.
Here's what church did to me, and I'm talking about like organized church, not just a belief in a higher power. Organized religion put this into my head, that people are actually much fucking nicer than they actually are. That's what church had me believing. They did not have me at a realistic expectation level of human beings. And to this day, like I will interact with people, and like occasionally I've heard this from a number of friends, but they'll say something eventually like, You know, sometimes it is really difficult to be your friend.
But
right?
church has the hierarchy. It's like politics does. Church has hierarchy.
Right.
Like,
but what it did,
hold on, man.
But what it did,
and if
Major,
you're not accepted into the fucking herd,
well, hierarchy isn't.
You're not wrong. But what I'm trying to say is that
it just doesn't apply to anyway. It doesn't apply to spirituality.
It gave me a false expectation of the amount of goodness in the average human being. Right?
Yeah.
It does create that. Yes, it
Dude,
does.
My dad was a minister. Do you have any idea how on your best behavior people act when you're dealing with the minister and the minister's kid?
Right.
So, yeah. And we, had this whole, it's called a cult. It's kind of a, maybe it was, anyway. Yeah. So we have this very segregated thing where we're like, we're the good people. We're the believers. We believe the actual thing because we study the Bible, unlike you. And, okay, so you're the good people, so you have to act like it, right? And on top of that, it's the minister of that. So, super, super anal retentive, really.
Yeah. Hey, Major, if you want to hang around, I'm going to put you on hold. You won't be hearing this program, but you're welcome to hang around. There is another call, and I'm going to take it.
Hey.
Beard Talk Live, who the fuck is this?
Who is Leon Wilkinson?
I don't know. Who is he?
Well, he had a beard. He was famous.
Was he famous?
Yes, he played a bass.
Are you talking about Lemmy?
No. Leon Wilkinson. He played the bass for Leonard Skinner.
Leon Russell Wilkinson, April 2nd, 1952 to July 27th, 2001, was the bassist of Southern rock band Leonard Skinner from 72 until he died in 2001. That's from the Wikipedia.
Yeah, I think there's only...
When there's an opportunity for me to put my name down, in writing, on a guest book or, even at a place where they're like, what's your name? I'll tell them something. I like to use Robert Plant, right? Because I hate Led Zeppelin, and I figure let's tarnish his name. I also occasionally will use Rick Springfield, right? Because fuck that guy. But there are, because these sound like they could be names, and if you're talking to people young enough, they don't know who these people are. They've never heard of Robert Plant or Rick Springfield, right? So I try to use musicians that are older than my age.
Are you trying to hurt me?
Well, I'm just saying that these are truisms. These are things that happen. So yeah, you show up and or you order something oh, what's the name on the order? Make something up, right? Use your, somebody you don't like, maybe somebody you like. Use a different word or phrase. Yes, that's my name. When they ask, yes, that's what I prefer to go by. That's my pronoun or whatever the fuck you got to say. You're ordering a cup of coffee. They're like, what's the name on that? You're like, Zinjanthropus. They're like, what? Zinjanthropus.
That's just
to make them pronounce something that they don't pronounce every day, and get people who are also waiting in line for their coffee to have to hear that and go, what the fuck? Who the fuck names their kid Zinjanthropus? Rob?
So anyways, I'd like to take this conversation into a different direction, if that's okay.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. Are you compelling?
No, I was. I've been a follower of a lot of different websites and stuff like that, and if I go to the state of Vermont or if I go to the state of New Hampshire, I noticed that there's an area in there where you can go where there's unsolved murder cases and shit like that.
Yep.
And it seems like
there's a lot
the list over in New Hampshire has gotten a lot more longer.
Yeesh.
And makes me think that might be a serial killer loose.
Oh.
Because some of these people that were killed back in the 70s and 80s, I was, young teenager back then, but yeah, it's amazing how the list has since grown. There's a lot more. One of the famous ones, was in Swansea, New Hampshire.
Okay.
They this woman was on her way back from, I don't know if it was from the Chester Fairground or from work or something, but she was pregnant. She was 7 months pregnant. And she stopped at Secords in Swansea to go over and get a soda out of the soda machine. And this guy came out of nowhere and stabbed her like 26 times.
So what makes you think? So what makes you think that this is part of a serial killer? Are there similar killings? How many of them?
Well, I mean, this person has been known to kill on both sides of the river, going up and down, north and south. They've never found this guy.
So how many killings constitute a serial killer? Do you know?
I would say, 2, 3, maybe 4. Too many, if you ask me.
All right, Rob, I want to come back to this. Hang on, we have to do something. Stand by. There we go. All right, now you got to wait at least until the camera faces you. We have a guest beard, and we had intended. All right, I think wait till it passes. At least we have you on video as having a beard officially. For at least the first frame of the show. I think you can tape it to your chin if you like.
Sounds like a lot of work.
We do require beards here on Beard Talk Live. So
I have a beard. That's just beneath my skin.
Thank you for your compliance. You've passed the Beard Talk Live TSA protocol. Welcome to the podcast. Mr. Mark Edge is with us.
Thank you.
And by the way, the first thing I have to say is since you have abdicated as Intergalactic Space King and are now the Intergalactic Space Wizard.
That's right.
I am taking your throne.
Okay, you can have it. Good luck. There's a lot of pretenders and vassals that are...
All hail.
Mark's like, I've had it on Craigslist forever and nobody's purchased it. Please come and take it. U-Haul.
I decided to go with Intergalactic Space Wizard because I know the spells to solve so many problems. Some problems are unsolvable, but I know the spells to solve so many problems, and it just people don't want to do the hard work of the proper incantations.
I was lamenting earlier when I wear my black beanie cap and then I put my black hoodie up over it, that when I look in like a car as I'm walking down the street, I look wizardly.
Well, I am a Hierophant.
Not that I'm trying to compete with your level of wizardly. I don't think anybody can get there.
The Intergalactic Space King suggests exclusivity. Wizard does not.
Fair, except I honestly believe that we should have precisely whatever the number is, 8 billion monarchies.
Kings. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yes.
8 billion monarchies. Now, I know usually a monarchy means that there are subjects, but fuck that.
Be the Intergalactic Space Wizard of yourself.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You too could be a captain as well. You
Indeed.
could be Captain Intergalactic Space Wizard.
I like Captain Liberty. I consider that as a
giant L. Who are you, Captain Loser?
Okay, but it requires a leather jacket and aviator glasses.
That's how you know.
You don't have the L on your chest. You've got it on your forehead.
That's right.
It's like the Wonder Woman headband with just a big L.
That's funny.
We'd have to have a shield, though. Would the shield be like not a shield? It's just a thing that you wear in your arm that's a giant letter L? Doesn't really block anything?
I'm just thinking of the other people out there that are called captains as far as superheroes go, and no others have shields.
It's kind of bizarre the life that Captain has taken on for me as a human, because now when I watch even like a regular show, I turned on a show the other day. I can't remember what it's called, but it's based on a ship in like the 1800s or something, and everybody's calling this guy Captain. And so like I'm in and like, who's calling? Oh wait, the TV's on, right? The Captain. I'm like, what? Oh, I'm not hearing. No, the TV's on, right?
You are hearing voices.
Somebody just saying Captain on the television, right?
You are hearing voices. They're just diegetic.
What does diegetic mean?
It means part of the scenery.
I see.
So normally when you're watching like anything, because we are wired the way that we are wired,
Sure.
and music is unbelievably powerful when it comes to emotion. I mean, that's why you're talking about this church venue, and I'm like, fuck yeah. I am so in favor of turning old churches into music venues.
Oh, and
because
it
is
awesome.
worship, honestly. Like it's you are honoring and serving a thing by like being a part of that music. And even if you don't comprehend quite the thing that you're being a part of.
Heavy metal concert in a church is a very tribal experience, right? To your points, right? It's not, I don't know if I'd go so far as to call it religious, but it's probably a spiritual experience, right? For at least most people.
Well, I tend to think that music is the closest thing we have to the supernatural, at least to the ability to control it, right?
That's interesting. Yeah.
I forget who said it, but there was a phrase of next to silence, that which closest comes to the voice of God is music.
Ooh. Sounds right.
Nice.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the captain appellation. So
yeah.
For a little while, I had a catamaran that we would float around on, and the term captain in the recreational sailing world is just tossed around like nothing.
Right.
I mean, every bridge tender, just everybody at the
Do you
marina.
own a styrofoam platform that floats in the water that you can get upon?
Yep,
Yes, you are a captain.
Yep. And they'll call everybody a captain. I would tell them I'm not the captain of this boat. I'm the king. My son's the admiral. And we voted the captain had to do all the work.
Nice.
Okay, so your son owns another boat in addition to this one?
No, I had promoted him to admiral.
Oh wait, that's Commodore. Commodore and
Commodore, yes. Yeah.
So speaking of appellations, you say you have the spells, but no one wants to put in the work.
Yes.
So I consider myself a minor hierophant of cryptocurrency. Like, that's the whole point. Everyone gets to be Pope. So what kind of spells can you share with us?
Oh, well, I mean, spells to do anything you want to do in your life. It just depends on what you want to achieve. What are you hoping to achieve in your life? I'll tell you how you can do it.
Let's
kind of what a talk show host does.
Let's see if Major Payne's still on there. Major, are you still there?
Oh, good gravy.
Hey, we've got the infamous Mark Edge joining us here on Beard Talk Live. You probably didn't hear, but yes, he did don a beard just before he got on the show. And now he's claiming, there he is again. He's got the beard again. Now he's claiming that he has spells to accomplish anything you want to accomplish. So, Major Payne, what do you want to accomplish? And Mark will attempt to provide a spell for you.
Well, I'm just glad he survived his ride with the charter ship on the Tiny Bowl Man.
The charter ship on the Tiny Bowl Man.
Tiny
Bowl, yeah.
Tiny Bowl Man. It was an old commercial. Where they used to little dude
Mark and I know, but Peakless Mountaineer does not know. He's too young for the Tiny Bowl Man. There used to be a commercial, and they would take the back tank off of the toilet, and there would be a dude floating in there on like a little boat or whatever. And it was for these the blue pucks that you put in to keep your water blue when you flush. That's all the Tiny Bowl Man was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I have no idea. This does not add any clarity whatsoever to what the Major just said.
I can think of Mr. Clean, but I can't think of what the Tiny Bowl Man looked like.
Yeah, me neither. I think he might have been wearing like a captain's jacket.
He just had a sailor's shirt and a little captain's hat, and he was riding about maybe a 6-passenger motorboat.
Oh, I thought it was like a canoe or something, even like less than that.
Oh, no, he had a motorboat.
Mandela effect. Major, Berenstain Bears or Berenstein Bears?
When he said motorboating, all I could think was big boobs.
Yeah, I understand.
Which, by the way, Mark, we are uncensored. I don't know how prone you are to cussing, but
I can cuss, but it's.
Do you know the 7 words in order? Will you do them with us,
Carlin? Go ahead.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he's already doing it. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits.
Right, and of course, fuck and motherfucker are the same term.
Right, yeah.
And as I understand, you can say tits and piss.
I have said piss, I believe, or at
certainly
least
pissed off.
Right, in that context, and but I still think that it is censored on television. So, and George Carlin's bit was the 7 words you can't say on television or radio. I think radio is probably the more forgiving of the two mediums. Go ahead, Major.
I got dumped on your regular program for saying pissing match twice.
Yeah.
By whom?
Yeah.
Probably me.
No, probably not. I think it was probably Ian. Oh, I called in Ian at the end of the show to tell him something that he probably should know.
Well,
Well, no. I know you're not really good at relaying information.
No, I'm just saying you're kind of guy. You're the kind of guy who calls the most frequently.
Yeah, I know I'm a pain in the fucking ass, but I'm a good fucking pain in the ass.
What was it you wanted him to know?
That the 14th Amendment, he needs to file for hybrid counsel. I got the fucking legal books taken away from all the federal prisoners.
What is hybrid counsel?
Hybrid counsel. That's where you, like, if you got one lawyer or two lawyers, you're liable or legal to sit third chair, bring up interjections and whatnot.
Right.
Okay? But, yeah, I was denied it because I did not have standing. Now, Ian, this shit is so fucking publicized, I think he can provide standing.
Publicized.
Well, we have at least one neologism every week, so.
That's true. That's our neologism for the week. Thank you, Major.
Well,
neologism.
I'm just telling you. I think it's the 14th Amendment. It might be the 6th. But, yeah, hybrid counsel.
Hybrid or hybrid?
Hybrid, yes.
Is it like I'm stoned and I'm eating a loaf?
I know. I am the highest motherfucker, and it's Beard Dog Live. There you go.
High beard?
What do you want me to tell you?
No, I want. Are you saying?
I've been advised I need high beard counsel.
Are you saying hybrid, like HYBRID, like as in the hybrid Toyota?
Now I could see a Tolkien world with a high beard council.
They could, yeah.
No, just like a reclassified plant, a hybrid.
Hybrid, okay. I once I was playing that Magic the Gathering card game with a group of people, and we got together. I had a studio apartment where I had all sorts of musical gear, and like these guys weren't pro musicians by any stretch, but we sat down, we jammed, and I recorded it, and we named that the Incredibly High Council of Hosts.
So, Major, one thing that you one thing that you bring up on a fairly regular basis is your boy going to jail.
Yep.
So
I just sent him.
Have you come to terms with that one?
Fuck, dude.
Well,
I'm gonna.
You say you've got spells for everybody for everything. I mean, this has been a torment.
I'm gonna die before he's out.
Really?
I don't know if I come to terms with that.
I don't know how you can.
You don't have a spell for that?
I don't have a spell for that one. All I can do is, the only thing you can do to cast the spell to get out of prison is not get in trouble while you're in prison.
But what about like him as a person? How does he come to terms with the fact that his son is going to do some time?
Grief counseling is what he's got to do. That's terrible.
So Mark,
I'm sorry that
Mark
that
casts the grief counseling spell on the Major.
Well, the thing is, real spells you have to cast on yourself. And they have a cost associated with them, usually in what we call sweat equity.
Yeah.
Like, they're a pain in the ass. You got to do them. Like, if you want to cast the spell for find a job, well, the ritual for that involves going out, getting applications, if it's like your first job, or like, different fields have different specializations on this spell.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how you cast that.
Warlock?
I'm an intergalactic space wizard.
What the fuck is all this casting spell shit?
A wizard.
He's an intergalactic space wizard.
So is that why you became more the power behind the throne? Is because it's less centralized? It's not monopolized.
I just found that libertarians didn't take the intergalactic space king thing the way that I always intended it. Which was,
Major, thanks for the call. We're going to chat with Mark for a while.
The idea that somebody claims rulership over you is laughable.
Mm-hmm.
And
truly.
If they only have power over you if you decide they have power over you.
Right. And
so many people did. I'd wear that crown and people would say, Your Highness, and I'd say loyal subject. It's hilarious.
You would be the
not
walking,
that I'm making fun of them. It's just a joke, right? But literally, people go around like the cops and the prosecutors and the governors and all these people are in charge of them.
What's the name of the thing? The experiment requires you continue.
Oh yeah, Milgram.
You're the walking Milgram experiment. When you have the crown on, you like everybody shows their Milgram experiment to you.
Yeah.
Right. Not everybody, but like those, even if they're joking, right? You're recognizing on a one-on-one basis the Milgram experience live.
Well, it's wild because we were, number one, this was beaten into us, and number two, the resistance to this has been bred out of us by having kings.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the people who are most resistant to rulers are all dead.
Yes.
Like they all got executed.
All the people on this side of that little bell curve, they're dead or imprisoned, which same thing basically.
But many of them managed to breed before.
You can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get rid of any of the traits.
We're a small group primate, right?
Yeah.
And so we tend to defer to people who are within our, peer group if we're going to defer, or whatever the situation is. Once you get to numbers like 60, they necessarily split and go again. So
it's sort of a Dunbar number of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out everyone has kind of a different Dunbar number. Like we each have unique capacities in like how much we can split the identities of things that we pay attention to. But yeah, there's a natural cutoff point where, and that's why it's there in the first place. Is it used to be that okay, we could split off into different groups. Do a bunch of you not like this tribe? There's land like right over there.
Well,
we could just go there and do our thing.
The question is that you kind of have to do it the right way, though, because otherwise then you got yourself a little war on your hands, and which women are you taking? How many of the resources of the tribe are you taking?
Because they are also human, Mark.
I like that.
Right, if you're talking in a completely like,
yeah. Well,
what's the word I'm looking for? An animalistic society, right? Then yeah, but like the whole point of human society is that we're not that.
Yeah,
we're barely not apes, but we're definitely not apes. Like the difference is so significant in how we operate as a species from apes, monkeys, and that kind of a thing, from primates.
Yeah,
that like it stands alone in and of itself as a thing that only we can reason. Right? We can reason. We can build things. We can make tools to make our jobs easier. Right? There aren't a lot of species on planet Earth that does all those things.
And if you believe in evolution, which I certainly do, it was specifically the trait of women choosing who and who not to reproduce that split us from bonobos and chimps in the first place. It was that very respecting their choice of mate that caused us to be so amazing.
I'm not sold on evolution. Right, but I mean, I think it's probably the most likely. However, I'm not opposed to floating the ideas of some sort of intergalactic intervention. Right, some space people came down, fucked some monkeys, and now you've got humans.
I wouldn't even come down on this one, but I do like looking at things and applying sort of reason to it and saying, oh yeah, I think it was the psilocybin mushrooms that separated us from the bonobos or whatever. I like it.
That could very well be as well. I think that
was part
of
it. Sure.
I would entertain that theory as much as somebody wanted to argue it.
Well, Tom Robbins, I can't remember which one it was that he was in. Still Life with a Woodpecker, Skinny Legs and All. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
But
anything that's going to prompt a production of neural development after you've matured, sure, I could absolutely see that changing your entire course of evolution. And like the one of the reasons that like as much as I despise the state, which is 100%, the reasoning for going, oh, fuck, no one's allowed to do acid ever, is there because it changes your voting patterns, because it changes your personal makeup, specifically in terms of openness, because it literally makes you smarter.
Well,
but in a very specific direction.
I don't think that the state reasons in that way. I think what they say is
oh, fuck it.
Well, no, I think it just. I mean, if the presumption is a bunch of old timey politicians from what are we talking about, 70 years ago or so, decided that Tim Leary leading the young youth astray was a bad idea.
Right.
They're having fun with this. They like
then
it.
Maybe they shouldn't have fucking sent him. That's my thought. No, here's the thing. So Timothy Leary, he gets caught once. He escapes because he was the guy that made the psychology test for where they put you in the prison. So wouldn't you know it, he got himself put where he can escape. They catch him again, and he says, I think we can come to an arrangement. And that's where the record stops. And then he comes out and he's like, hey, guys, I've got this amazing recipe. Anti-war people everywhere? Hey, let's do this instead. Learn Buddhism, stare at your navel. Don't worry about making the world a war-free place. Just bring your vibes up, man.
Oh, you got a man in there. I was waiting for it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's a plausible explanation. I don't know. But one of the things is I've been thinking about Ian's trial coming up. And, one of the sacraments of the Shire Free Church is Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And the reason is there's nothing you can do otherwise to stop war.
Yeah.
Like think about it for a second. If this is what you want to do, you want to stop war on planet Earth.
Yeah.
What can you do? The Quakers have been asking this question for 400 years. So they do not have an answer.
The practical answer, of course, is go find out where there's a war going on, and I mean like actual skirmish, right? Go, buy yourself a plane ticket to wherever it is, right? Put on some boots and go out there and try and stop those motherfuckers from warring with each other.
Good luck.
Right, but I mean it's the inverse of the argument of presidents not fighting the war. They're cowards, right? They won't go and So
what are you gonna do? Lock them in handcuffs?
Right. Yeah. Once you get there, what are you going to do? Stop it, guys. Right. Put your hands up. Right. Keep away.
So here's the thing: human beings have two solutions to any problem. That's it. Like if we have an issue with each other, there are literally two solutions. Like either it goes unsolved, or we hit each other, or we talk about it. So yeah, obviously you can't literally physically go, guys, cut it out, quit. Go. Hey, one of those tag me.
Humans do solve problems from time to time.
Right. So
we do.
So
Bitcoin
trade is communication.
Yeah.
Trade is communication. The old saying is, if goods don't cross borders, armies will.
Yep.
Right.
And it's very true because you may not be able to say, hey, stop shooting at this person. But if you can say, hey, look at this cool shiny trinket or whatever it is.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's pretty clear is our governments stop us from doing business. Right now, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do business with Russia. You haven't been able to do business with Iran.
You're not allowed to look at RT website.
Yeah,
really?
Unless you got a VPN.
Yeah, I've had like just some sites that put up their videos and it's completely blocked.
Yeah,
because it's from RT.
I'm in the RT Telegram channel. And I can't view any of it anymore unless I fire up my VPN and say I'm not from the United States. And then I can view it. It puts up a banner. It says something like, you cannot view this channel because it violated international law or something like that.
Interesting.
But yet I keep getting notified that, a new message, right? So like whoever's running that channel is still putting content out. So somewhere on planet Earth, somebody is able to see those messages. And it turns out that just not in the U.S.
Yeah. And that can be circumvented with a cryptocurrency.
Right.
There's a
VPN.
cryptocurrency or a VPN. You can just use the cryptocurrency to view it over LBRY, however you want to pronounce that. And bada bing, bada boom, you are talking again.
Yep.
Instead of, because like sanctions, like stopping trade, that is a kind of violence. Because I mean, it's a violence in both directions, right? Because you are threatening your own people.
Yep.
To like, you better quit trading with them or else. And by doing that, you're hurting them, which is like what you're aiming at.
Sure. And what we're seeing in places like Iran and Russia is in many cases, it's not the people at the top that are being hurt. It's the people at the bottom. Yeah. Those are the ones that are suffering through these trade situations.
Tell me more about, so you said Bitcoin was one of the
sacraments
of the church.
Yep.
Did you finish your thought on that?
Yeah, basically.
I'm curious, is there more, and what are they?
Well, I can tell you that Bitcoin is.
Okay.
And the reason is,
I'm with you so far. Go ahead.
It's a peace church, and the goal is to help people spread the idea of peace, and use Bitcoin, not bombs. And to me, it's the most effective means that we have at this point of waging peace. Right? Heretofore, all you could do was stand for peace.
Right.
But with Bitcoin, using it, advocating for the use of it, these sorts of things, at some point or another, in the same way that the U.S. dollar gives power to the war machine, Bitcoin takes it away.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. And
waging peace, that's an interesting concept. I haven't thought of that before. I didn't think of peace as something you wage.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
And then that's a funny thing about war, right? And violence and these sorts of things is, as a libertarian, should I really be stepping in between two people that want to harm each other?
No.
And, mostly I don't. Now, of course, one of those people is bound to want to tax me so that they can go and do their little fighting.
Right.
And that's the thing that I'm, most fundamentally
against. If they're not
against.
already taxing you.
But I am against their fighting, too.
Yeah.
Because their fighting always has these negative externalities that it creates that I've got to deal with.
On an individual basis, right? So if the state doesn't exist and people settle their problems individually, this isn't a problem. There's going to be few people that are like, let's settle this with a fist fight. Or I challenge you to a duel, right? Slaps you on the face with some gloves or whatever.
That might be the way to do it.
Maybe. But this is how, that would be one option for people to solve their disputes.
I can think of a few that's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
But they would be allowed to do that if it were voluntary, instead of having politicians send your sons and daughters off to kill people they've never met because you disagree. The guy sending them disagrees with the guy over there.
Well, and one of those negative externalities might just be the end of life on Earth.
Oh, sure.
That's actually a thing. Could happen.
Well, the end of human life.
No. I mean, as far as we can tell, it is possible to kick up so much dust.
Sure, it's
that
possible.
You kind of kill everything.
I think Earth will survive, but
I think life on Earth will survive. It just might not be human life.
Yeah, the humans are the ones I'm rooting for the most.
Yeah,
right.
I am a human supremacist. I believe that humans are the most important form of life in the universe. We make art and talk in ways that nothing else can because we can make abstract thought. We literally form a copy of our universe and ourselves inside our head. Yeah, I want more of that.
I just want to get back to waging peace because I agree with that idea. I've just never heard it before. Waging peace. If I aspire to do anything with Beard Talk Live or Beat on the Radio, whatever, waging peace seems like that's about it. I enjoy that as sort of a life goal, a life mission, if you will.
Right. I mean, it's kind of what the Free State Project's about too, to some extent. Sure. Is everybody moves here to tell everybody else to leave each other alone, and I mean, is it the most libertarian thing you can do? I can hear arguments against, but at the same time, it's very libertarian in the sense that we say, hey, settle down, stop punching.
Yeah.
Well, there are remarkable advantages to being in the physical proximity of people. I mean, that's why we used to have churches.
Yeah.
And that was your community.
Right.
You had your parish. I mean, down south, the county is still
called a parish.
If there was
some news, everybody gather at the church.
Right. And if you didn't get along at this parish, you could try the next one, see if you get along there.
Well, I tend to think the churches were mostly dating opportunities for young people. Got to find who's available in town.
Are you saying that church was the first Tinder?
Yeah, pretty much.
Christian mingle?
Does it give you a tingle?
Because school will mix you with people your age, but different communities handled this differently. In many cases, In many cases, women did not marry men that were their age. They married men that were eligible, and meaning that they had already developed some wealth and these sorts of things,
Right.
and going to make their lives easier.
Men had a criteria you had to meet to be eligible.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, and still tends to be the case.
Yeah.
On average,
Although,
women
I don't know, man,
will
some
be
girls
younger
date-
than the man. Although that
some girls
gap
date
has
some dudes who,
definitely tightened.
Well, I think to some extent because we call everybody like if it doesn't take too much for your friends. You're 9 months older than if the woman's 9 months older than the man, they'll call her a cradle robber because it's funny. They're
Right,
teasing, but that has further effects. And at this point, Loretta Lynn, the age difference between her, I think she was 14 and her husband was 25 or something like that. Yeah. That is completely verboten in modern society in the United States.
14 to 20, right. But if she was 17 and 25.
I think that would be more acceptable.
I think everybody would be like, all right. It's on the
I
cusp,
think this is
right?
the effect of schools.
Yes.
I agree.
So they make you, not your range of ages. No. Within 1 year of you.
Yeah.
And it's weird to be otherwise, which, guess what? Makes you incredibly bad at empathy, which is what they're aiming for. So an entire culture that has for generations done only that with 90 some odd percent, somewhere over 5% of its population. Yeah. So they really only identify with their exact age group. So, okay, boomer.
Right.
How dare you be older than me?
But I did see some, the difference between a senior and a freshman is stunning.
It is significant.
Yeah, and
for most,
yeah,
right? Like
puberty is a hell of a drug.
There's an early bloomer here or there that stands out of the crowd, but yeah, if you look at anybody's freshman photo versus their senior photo, it's stark.
And usually the height is shown there, so you got a freshman girl and a senior guy. I'm not saying I don't care what people do, but as long as everything's consensual, it's just I remember high school and I remember thinking those things. But then again, I was raised just as you were saying. Every single class, the people in the other classes, we were competitive with them. They were the bad guys. We were at war. They were dehumanized.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, freshman hazing.
Yes.
They cracked down on it, but it was a thing to be cracked down on.
We did it. I did it.
And this goes all the way back to the old British boarding schools. It's tradition, of course. You beat the shit out of the new ones. How else are they supposed to beat the shit out of the new ones when they're older?
We had the Latin Club slave sale. And we literally, the first year in Latin Club, and everybody who was in Latin class was meant to be in Latin Club. And the guy who was the teacher, he became an administrator later. So you just he just had this power around him. For some reason, I was in Latin Club. I have no idea why. And the slave sale was their fundraising thing. And so this was total hazing. They did. They would. What happened to me? They made some fat girl carry me. I was a thin kid, so they she had to carry me, and there were pictures taken of it. One of my owners used a jersey to tie a pizza crust to my forehead. Just all kinds of awful behavior.
A pizza crust to your forehead?
Dumped Sprite on my head, things like that. It was at the beach, mind you, so I could go in and get it washed off. Nothing was harmful, but it was hazing, definitely. And
humiliating.
I did the same thing the next year.
I'm curious now, was the pizza the first thing ever tied to your head?
I don't know what you mean.
I'm just thinking maybe you were the intergalactic pizza king before you were the intergalactic space king.
I bet there's a restaurant called Pizza King.
I was trying to get a fast food jab in there somehow.
That'd be one.
That was esoteric.
I'm all effort.
Burger Chef Hardee's before Hardee's was Hardee's?
The restaurant?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't know Hardee's. And there's a lot of people that don't know Jack in the
Carl's
Box.
Jr.
Carl's Jr. as well. These are all the same
Hardee's
type of restaurant owned by the same organization. But basically, they're the same restaurant. Now, Jack in the Box is slightly different. The Carl's
You can't
Jr.
get tacos at a Carl's Jr.
Carl's Jr. is slightly different than a Hardee's, but they're basically the same thing. Growing up in Wisconsin, I never knew what a Jack in the Box was. Plenty of Hardee's. And I would eat there frequently. I'd move out to the West Coast. There's no Hardee's, but there's this thing called Jack in the Box. And I'm like, oh, this is delicious because it's fast food.
Yeah, sure.
So
I mean, when I've given up on going to fast food restaurants that I've never been to before because I'm just left flat by fast food. I just don't want it.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes I do, but rarely. I used to stop off. Well, I've never been to this restaurant before. I'm going to go here
just to have the experience,
right?
Yeah.
But there's no experience there. The Whataburger. Not that great of a burger.
I've still not been to a Whataburger, so I've got that going for me.
It was
which
fine.
Is nice.
I don't mean to say that it was a bad burger.
Yeah.
I'm just the idea that somehow some epiphany is going to be had there.
There's kind of nothing special about fast food. That's
can't
part of it being fast.
I can't see a place named Whataburger not being a letdown, right? Because the expectation is you're going to bite into it and go, "What a burger!" Right? And you don't, right?
Yeah, the best burger. Well, Five Guys.
Yeah.
Five Guys will make a hell of a burger, but I wouldn't call it fast food.
It is a superior burger as far as that type of a joint. But notice they don't have a drive-in.
Yeah.
They have an app.
Five Guys. Well, yeah, you can order online and then go pick it up or have it delivered.
And they will not let me forget it either.
That they have an app?
I don't know what it is about advertising, but I own whichever ad it is, it's the same ad over and over and over.
I hate
Funny. So does this mean that because we've mentioned Five Guys and my phone's on, that I'm going to hear that now?
You're going to get a coupon in your email at 4 in the morning?
You might. I won't. That shit never happens to me.
Oh.
Okay.
Ever. Now, mind you, I always turn on the shit of no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
First thing I do when I go through my phone, where are the settings? Because I know you're going to have all your spyware on. Let's see what I can turn off of it.
I avoid most of that because I use browser only, even on the mobile device, particularly for social media. I have apps, right? I'll download and use apps if they're a utility. They have some use to me, and I need them. Third-party verification stuff, whatever, that kind of thing. But I try to keep my phone as app-free as possible, and that means zero social media apps. So when I get on Twitter on my phone, I'm on the website. I'm logging in, I'm logging out, right? As much as I can. If you don't log out, the cookie will stay in your browser, and when you go to twitter.com the next time, you'll just be logged in still. So they figured out how to overcome that on the mobile browsers. But that's why I don't use the apps, is because the apps do all of that tracking, that backtracking, and sends you these, you're in a room with people and you're talking about Five Guys, and then tomorrow in the mail you've got coupons from Five Guys. How did that happen?
Yeah.
So I'm going to tie this all in together. Watch me. So the app that lets you order the fast food with the cryptocurrency is amazing.
What is that app?
Dash Direct, I think it is.
Okay.
So it's from the Dash people. So
Okay.
yeah, you use Dash. You get DoorDash, which I find hilarious.
Right, yeah.
And it's okay, so I can use my crypto to get crypto, and then I could use that crypto to get food, and I am just swiping around on a shiny black rock.
Yeah. For those who don't know how that
Fucking wizardry.
How that type of wizardry works, what they're doing is they're taking advantage of what's called the gift card economy. So gift cards have been the transducer of cryptocurrency to turn it into real goods for quite some time. Now, there's crypto credit cards that I know you're at least aware of, Mark,
Yep.
and I know we've had a discussion on Peakless. So there are ways for you to sort of spend, but it always requires this intermediary. If it's not a bank like Visa, MasterCard, whatever, and it's not like a crypto debit card, then something like Dash Direct is what they're doing is they're transducing your cryptocurrency for the spot price of the USD at the moment of your purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So, and effectively, you're buying a gift card through a gift card service for the Dash for the exact amount that you just ordered, right?
Yep.
And so, and that's how these things work. So, what I'm first of all, that's great news because cryptocurrency is able to navigate its way around the spendability problem by using intermediaries, right? Whatever those might be. And so that's good news because that just means the crypto takeover will continue, right? Because crypto can be innovated.
Despite
upon.
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Right.
Fuck that because of him. No, absolutely. No, I love this. I am absolutely, everyone, it's going to break everything. Yes, it's going to break everything that wasn't working.
Well, right.
If you got into bed with this motherfucker, it's because you trusted the institutional banking system. You trusted the whole system where, well, since I know the regulator, I can get away with this, 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 and this.
To be clear, there are people that are secondarily, tertiarily that are involved. Like, for instance, if you BlockFi, right?
Yep.
Let's say that we don't know what happened with BlockFi, but we do know they just filed bankruptcy.
Yep.
So let's say
it had something to do with their connection with FTX.
Mm-hmm.
It had something to do with their crappy business practices.
Indeed. Crappy business practices, but what if you just, gave them some crypto, took a loan out against it, and then if BlockFi does some business with somebody who does some business with FTX and these kind of things, it does, it all comes back to not your keys, not your coin,
right?
Every single time.
Absolutely.
What the DeFi movement has been attempting to do and continually failing at it is to securitize cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
This is something that you heard about before the 2008 crash, right? As far as the explanation of what happened, and what happened was there were all these companies issuing mortgages that they probably shouldn't have issued to unqualified people, but they would take and bundle these. This is called securitizing, and then sell these bundles or portions of these bundles off to other companies. So you could have a mortgage that you took out with a bank, but you could have a tenth of it over here, a quarter of it over there, the rest of it over here, right? In a bunch of different pieces. So different companies could have different pieces of the mortgage that you took out, depending on the performance of the company backing the mortgage. So securitizing of these things, is, for layman's terms, is just bundling them up and reselling them at whatever value they can get for them. Now, you want to be able to label your securities in such a way that, like, these are sort of the bad ones, these are the C-level ones, or these are the A-level ones, right? So there's kind of a numerical or a letter ranking system amongst them. But basically, that's what you're doing, is just bundling. The reason that's not working with cryptocurrency is because cryptocurrency will not act like regular currency, like government-backed currency in the current banking system, and they're just now figuring that out. Banks have been at a rush to try and figure out how to capitalize on this thing and turn it into a thing that works within the system that exists already, and you can't. It's going to eat the existing system.
Yeah, well, and while it eats it, it's destroying every lie they ever told.
Yes.
It is bringing it into the sunlight. This is what you do. This is how you run a successful company in their world. You know the regulators. You are deeply in bed with both parties, actually, and you've paid off all the right people, and you're golden, and everyone trusts you, and you have this great reputation. And you're a philanthropist now, like top tier right there. Ooh, I'm so rich. My job is helping people by giving them shit.
We're having what I'd like to call a sunshine moment.
Yep.
Right? And that is the Bankman fraud, FTX debacle, right? It's all over the fucking news. Right. So what is the lesson from this? Right. And this is why I call it a sunshine moment. Right. This shines a light super bright on all of the exchanges. Right. Super bright on not your keys, not your coins.
Yep.
Right. This is a sunshine moment for people to learn. When email first came out, people, @ the fuck's an @ right? You know, and they had to figure out how to write, all lowercase, no spaces. Right? They had to figure these things out. They were foreign to them at first. And that's what's happening with Bitcoin. Everybody knows Bitcoin now has value. Remember when the big argument was, you and your stupid internet money won't ever be worth anything, right? Well, now everybody recognizes that it has value, banks, governments included, right?
Yep, everybody's doing it.
And it literally is a gold rush to try and, like, squeeze the round peg into the square hole. Right? That's what. But so we're having a sunshine moment right now, which is, I think, going to end up being a pivot point, a learning point for most people, right? People who were only into cryptocurrency because they were trying to get rich, instead of the people who were into it because of its philosophical value. Right? I think the three of us here would maintain that we're into it because of its philosophical value.
One of the huge shifts that you're seeing numerically is the number of 1 Bitcoin or less, and like half a Bitcoin or less especially, just through the fucking roof. Like, not even comparable to any of its previous increases. So that's actual people owning their actual coins. So the rest of the time, because that's all it does, is it looks at wallets, right?
Yep.
But the wallets that are held by the exchanges, it's just high amounts in a couple of wallets. but everyone pulling their shit off of all of their exchanges. Self-custody. Owning your own Bitcoin. Treating your wallet like a wallet instead of an account.
Right.
Like that happened.
The information exists. And so when this whole thing started going down and people were like, something's going on in crypto, how do I secure myself against any bad things that are going to happen? The first piece of information, if they just, went on their favorite search engine and typed in, how do I protect myself crypto, would be like, get your money off the exchanges, right? Not your keys, not your coin. So the crypto community, if you will, has done a good job of putting the information out there. It's sunshine events like this that force people to go to the website and look up, how do I, right? And then, now I know how to protect myself.
I think 90% of people prior to the FTX debacle probably were holding their coins in some kind of custodial fashion, meaning that somebody else had custody of it.
Right. How many people were staking, right, trying to reap some benefits on some, payments back and, loaning, type of organizations and smart contracts that exist out there.
Here's one thing that I don't get. Like, okay, CDs are pretty obvious financial tool, right? Okay, you put this in a 5-year CD. You can't get it back until it's 5 years from now. Maybe you can sell it to someone else in the meantime, but that's how it works. And yet there's so many people complaining about not being able to unstake. It's like, but you already do this. Staking is just a CD with programming. That's all. That's all it is.
There's still risk involved.
Well, it depends on the type of staking. I mean, for instance, Dash had these master nodes. You can bust your master node up anytime you want. But I suppose there are other. I would be very nervous, right now if I couldn't get my coin off of any given location. Whether I staked or didn't.
Well, I mean, Ethereum really caused this problem because they're like, you might all try to leave us when we do this changeover into the proof of stake. We're going to bribe you into letting us just keep you forcibly on the exchange for a specific very long period of time. Which it's just like, okay, it's like a 50-year bond is a thing. You can have a 50-year bond, a 5-year bond, a 10-year bond, or whatever they call them. The treasury market.
50-year bond sounds like a government thing. Better pay good interest.
Oh, yeah.
You guys made me think of starting a token for my non-existent all beef restaurant, and the token would be proof of stake. STEAK.
At St. Kitts, you could probably do that.
Ooh, proof of stake.
Proof of stake.
Steak.
And that would be the only good proof of stake. Oh my God, it's such a scam. The whole proof of stake system.
What do you think of this as a bit about cryptocurrencies? You've been talking about it for decades. Today during Free Talk Live, the phrase in relation to Federal Reserve notes, proof of violence.
Well,
is that not accurate for if you're trying to describe, okay, this crypto is proof of stake, this crypto is proof of, what's the other one?
Of work.
Proof of work, thank you.
Yeah.
And then this other currency is proof of violence because it's the only thing that backs the FRN.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the only thing. There's cultural momentum. There's obvious the violence, right? The United States military,
right?
The full force of it.
That's the only thing backing it. If the military...
there's also the sort of the petrodollar aspect,
which is proof of violence
by the military.
The reason that it has the petrodollar aspect is because it's been the proof of violence to take over the countries that have access to easy oil and go, okay, if you play ball, then we'll keep you as our puppet dictator.
Yes,
you get to be
rich and you get to rule over your little chunk of desert. But if you don't do it right, then you're out of there.
Yeah, one of the major causes of World War I that no one ever knows about is that they discovered oil in the Middle East. So they were going to take the Orient Express that went all the way to Istanbul and bring it down to Afghanistan. And all through all of the oil-rich countries. And England went, oh, the fuck you do, Germany. because you have the best banks and really good engineers. And we are currently ruling the waves, so we're really a dominant power in this region. The fuck you do. Okay, do this, 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 and this, and that will mean that we're in a war here. We will be in a war here, and you won't be able to build your train.
Yeah, it was a domino effect, and I wouldn't doubt it at all that might have been one of the, because this is how these people thought at the time, and probably still do.
Yeah, it's a clash of empires, right? You know, the sun shall never set on the British Empire, lest any of us trust them in the dark.
Right. So with regards to the petrodollar, it's use the dollar or else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, for Americans, it's use the dollar or else pretty directly.
Yeah.
For everyone else, it's use the dollar or be uncertain of where you will get your oil.
Well, one of the reasons, and I'm not saying it's the only reason, one of the reasons people use the dollar is because it is the best run fiat currency out there. Now that just is breathtaking. That just shows how breathtakingly bad the rest of the fiat currencies
the biggest
are run.
Turd in the bowl.
No, or the shiniest turd in the bowl.
Yes, the shiniest turd in the bowl.
Turd, if you will.
Yep. Indeed. I mean, you just got to look at what the rest of the other options are. The ruble isn't exactly well run.
God, no, none of them are.
Russia's a petrostate. Well,
and what's sadly funny about part of this is the biggest buyer of American bonds, because that's the thing. It's a dual currency juggling act, right? Just like they do with a couple of cryptos, like they did with Luna. But anyway. So you have to have enough people that aren't you buying the treasuries, or everyone catches on and it just plummets.
Yep.
And our biggest treasury buyer was Japan, who has the worst bank on earth. 100% of the Japanese banks are just propped up by the government, completely indirectly. They're all zombie banks. There's not one valid business among them.
Isn't that true with the Federal Reserve Bank? Are they not propped up by themselves and the full might of the United States military?
Well, as he said, yeah, but not to that degree.
Because they just print more.
It's a matter of degree. They have some people buying their treasuries, for example. So Japan, no one wants Japanese treasuries. Why would you? Everyone wants American treasuries.
Yep.
Can't do without them.
Why?
Because you can't buy oil without them, and because they trust that the American government will still be there in the morning.
Because if you look at, which nations are going to be at the top of the pile in 10 years,
right.
The United States is still going to be at the top of the pile.
Likely.
And you could just sort of look at all the factors that go into it. China 10 years from now is going to have a huge retiree problem.
Yep.
And in the United States, not so much. Somehow we've managed to do something that almost no other nation managed to do, Canada excluded, which is that we made a nation based on identity as opposed to ethnicity. And almost every other nation is an ethnicity-based group.
Right.
And you can be an American by sort of raising your hand and pledging some saying an oath and meaning it and all that stuff.
Right.
I'm certain there's people that pledge the oaths and don't mean it.
Well, that's Roman, isn't it?
It is very much so, but
it all comes back to trust, though, right? The organization of trust. Who do you trust, right?
Well, I don't trust the U.S. government, but I trust it more than I trust the China government.
Right. Mongols did that one too.
Which one?
The bit where instead of being one ethnicity, you have a national identity that is especially not ethnic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that India apparently has surpassed China in population?
In population, yeah. They should be right about that point.
What impact does a population like that have on the global scale in regards to finance?
Well, India's got a socialist government, so I don't expect them to get powerful anytime soon. But population is population.
I mean, China, right? They're a socialist government, right? And they're
authoritarian government.
Yeah.
I actually wonder where India is going to land on all of this, because they seem to have taken the COVID thing rather personally. Because, they were given the same assurances as any ordinary person of, no, this is safe, this is effective, absolutely give it to all your people. And I think nobody gave them the memo on corruption and how this is all a scam that's going to kill a bunch of people but make the people participating very rich. And they're a little butthurt about it. You know, like you should be. If you're not in on the scam.
The thing that that comes to mind when it comes to, you know, some nation surpassing the largest population of, you know, whatever the current nation is that as these things go, they're within a government. And, you know, when you start having growth that outpaces another nation and they're a socialist nation, like the opportunity for them to become even more tyrannical is just around the corner, in my opinion.
Yeah, India has some terrifying capacity for tyranny.
If we say, and I do say, that the United States is an empire, it has all the traits of an empire, right? China is also an empire.
Well, we had to create a term called hegemony in order to, you know, say that
pretend that we weren't one.
How, you know, it's fine, but it's still like you look at all
empire,
the pillars of
those
what an
have
empire
kings.
is.
We have a president.
The United States fills all of them, except for we rotate the guy in charge every couple of years or whatever. But like something like India is like they could get very violent very quickly based on the type of government that exists there. I'm not saying they're going to, but like
they really dislike Pakistan, Bangladesh, China. You know, they're surrounded by enemies.
Yeah.
So
they are working with China now, though.
Well, they're also at war with them on a pretty regular basis. So, or when I say war, battling, you know,
that's true.
They've got a couple of they got a borders dispute.
Yeah, how we live in absolutely upside down world. So, like, the Fed is on my side against the World Economic Forum. The Kissinger is calling for an end to war.
I haven't heard that, but I love the idea.
Yeah, even Kissinger is like, guys, we wanted to not nuke the planet, right? Remember, if we kill everybody, then we have to stop the human sacrifices. Remember that? So, holy shit, you're calling for not war?
So we're about halfway through the show. Usually take about a 10-minute break. You guys good for the break?
I am going to go to bed. I got up pretty early this morning for my flight.
Well, thanks for sitting in.
But it was a pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank
you having
for your
and thanks for
wizardry
and wearing the fake beard.
Thank you.
Yep, we appreciate that. I'm going to take us out to break with what did I have queued up? Oh, some of me. Here's my heavy metal band.
living without even thinking. I threw it right back and more. You're the star right for you. I got something for you. No reason to deny it. You ain't going nowhere. It's alright. I wanna watch you bleed. I am no sympathy. Watching the rumble out from your head and giving so much pleasure to see you lying right there in front of me. So yeah, I got something for you. No reason to deny it. You ain't going nowhere. It's alright. I have no sympathy. I wanna watch you glide. I wanna watch you bleed. I have no sympathy. All you are got to I wanna watch you bleed. I have no sympathy. You took everything I'm given without even thinking, and threw it back like a toy. You're the star right for you. I got something for you. No reason to deny it. You ain't going nowhere. Sing alright. you bad, everyone that you know. I'm in absolutely everything. Everything that's a psychological impact. Psychological impact. Everything that's a psychological impact. Everything that you've done, everyone that you call, everything that you've been, everyone that you know. I mean absolutely everything. Everything.
Welcome back to Beard Talk Live, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We're just coming back from our mid-podcast break where I played you some of me because, well, nobody promotes me, and I've basically been the only one ever promoting myself. So shameless self-promotion. If you go to CaptainKickass.com, there's some links to stuff that I've done and do. Links to me here doing, this in the radio show. Links to music that I've made. This was off of a band. This is a band called Pure Hatred, and this is a disc that I call Intoxicated Liberation. It's one of these where, like, we did a recording, and then we did a recording with another guy, and then the two recordings, one of them never got released, and so I remixed that one. Remixed and remastered it, and it's really pretty good. So feel free to check that out over at CaptainKickass.com. Do you have a web thing?
Well, no, I love this because I just made a shameless self-promotion.
What did you do?
I promoted myself to Intergalactic Space King.
That's right. Different kind of promotion, but a promotion nonetheless. Congratulations on your promotion.
You're welcome.
I really am. I really am welcome. It's true. There was something that, I don't know. There was something I need just a reminder because there were things I wanted to talk about today, and we've talked about zero of them, and so and that's fine. I'm totally down with running the show sort of off the hip, if you will. But
to be fair, one of the things we were kind of looking forward to with this show is, man, there's such good show prep that we just never get around to. Because
that's true.
I mean, both things to look out for and like hilarious things and like all the wacky shit going on in the world.
I don't know if this has to do with the show, but I don't think I have said this before either on the radio show or on this podcast, Beard Talk Live, that you're listening to right now. But
nice plug.
If you play guitar and you play with another guitar player and the two of you do guitar harmonies, what have you done? Guitarmonies. That's right. Guitar plus harmonies equals guitarmonies. It's a
delightful litany there.
Well, it's a portmanteau, right? So it's the portmanteau of the day. What did we have earlier?
We had publicicize.
But what was, you called it a
neologism.
Neologism. What's a neologism?
Neologism. Neo, new.
Neologism.
Logos, word.
Not Neo as in like diamond, but Neo as in the Matrix.
Yes.
Okay.
I know Kung Fu. Neo.
And what's the other half of the word?
Logism. Logic.
Oh, okay. All right.
Word. Logos.
Logos. Okay. Etymology. Here we go. Forcing humans to your preference is always wrong. No exceptions. Thought that was pretty good. I don't know where these come from. Like, I just have some things.
Well, I would add to that.
Like, I think that's the difference between, like, a
letting them
non-anarchist.
think that you will force them is also, I mean, the same thing as forcing them. Like, if I threaten you,
right,
it is the same thing as doing what I'm threatening you with.
Especially if you're afraid of it. If you're not afraid of it, then it's totally not. But yes, you're right. It's in the perception. It's also in the production of how you present the message. But if you're threatening somebody to get your way, you're already a dick, right? You're already in the wrong. You're a bastard.
Yeah.
You know, for just threatening somebody, right?
You are out of civilization. You need to apologize and get back in line with civilization, or we will not have a relationship as human beings.
Yeah. Every now and again,
I like having human relationships.
Every now and again, I can come off as gruff or whatever, and I'll be like, "You just hush," right? And people hush somehow. Like, I don't know. And I've done that too. And somebody else is like, "You just hush for now." Oh, sorry, right? You know, you respond to different people differently with different reactions, and so.
Well, and part of this is just universally apply the principle. Okay, the police have never apologized for extorting you every fucking day.
That's true. Yeah. No politician has ever done so.
Right.
No military person that I'm aware of has ever been like, "Hey, man, sorry." No, that's not true. I've heard from military
some
people.
Some of our
I've
best
heard from military people who have
I did not know what I signed up for.
Right. But they came back and they got out and they maybe listened to like Free Talk Live or any other liberty-oriented media.
There's a fucking reason that Ron Paul was the most funded politician in that election. Yeah. Is they want out of this proof of violence system.
And now I wonder if the strategy of bringing the message of freedom to soldiers first, right, as like a priority, has any merit, right? I know there are people who have talked about doing campaigns of such a thing. You know, somebody wrote a book, and I'm just going to send one to all the troops, right? You know, wherever they're at, and that got like intercepted and seized and like not sent. Like, you know, so what do? How do you reach that particular audience? Because I really do think that if the members of the military in any country, really, if they all just got together and said, "Hey, you know what? No, we're not going to murder these people anymore." Well, if they just got together and made that decision.
So there is literally one way that can happen. We bribe them. Not a joke. Hilarious, but not a joke.
I've often made the joke that when it comes to government, bribery is the best policy.
It's literally the
answer. But then aren't we going to get out-bribed? Let's just say, like, and by we, I mean, like, whoever presents the money and the idea. You know, wouldn't it just
by
be
the arcade
out-bribed?
tickets?
Well,
I mean, come on. Just look at what's happening. In spite of stocks absolutely fucking plummeting, gold's actually kind of up again. Might have a real big spike again, might not. Certainly keeping its own because people are moving out of the dollar.
I don't wish ill on my fellow man. You know, I want everybody to be prosperous. I want everybody to live a life of their choosing. Right, and do things that appeal to them as long as you're not harming anyone or taking anybody's stuff.
Right.
I'm good. And I also want that back from you. And right now, the number of people who don't give that back way outnumber the people who give it by a huge astronomical quantity. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'm asking these questions about, like, you know, because we're in triage time here. Like, we don't really have time to, like, educate the next generation. Yes, that's the best strategy. And yes, thank you to all the homeschoolers. Thank you to all the libertarian moms and dads.
We got this locked down in 20 years. It's just the whole
thing.
Living? Sorry.
Yeah, like thank you to anybody who's homeschooling. Really, even if you're not of the libertarian mind or an anarchist mind, you are doing your child a favor simply by removing him from one of the most coercive institutions known to man.
I mean, it's one of those things I actually didn't think that much about until I was talking to my sister or my mom. I forget which one.
Yeah.
And it was my mom about we homeschool here. It's just a universal thing in my community. Hadn't really realized that. I literally don't know anyone who puts their kid into public school.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, no one in my sphere does that to their children.
I do know some children of people I know that are in public school. And I know of one in particular that was homeschooled and then decided to go to the public school to, like, be around kids his age and meet girls, for example, right? Figure that out before he gets, into the plus 18 adult world.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that's a small number. And it's true. I've read statistics that talk about since the propagandemic, the number of people, the number of kids not returning to school has gone up because now they're being homeschooled. Because people figured it out when it was in their fucking living rooms. They're like, really? Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, what a horrible environment for these kids to fucking be in.
So there's this principle that runs through detection and economics and philosophy. Cui bono? Who benefits? So when you see something happening, who's benefiting from this situation? Who benefits from everyone hating history and mathematics and, all the human empowering things?
Well, the people writing the history are the ones who benefit. We know that. Up until the invention of Bitcoin, those who printed the money, right? They carried all the weight, man. Well, they carried all the weight.
And the thing is, it's distributed consensus. Humanity's never had that before. I mean, we basically gained a form of techno-telepathy.
It's almost like I'm trying to refer to a technology that hasn't yet been invented. Oh, you mentioned it. So Star Trek teleportation.
Right.
Like, that's basically what Bitcoin is. It's just the money version of that type of an invention.
Yes.
Like, if somebody, like, tomorrow were like, hey, guys, I invented teleportation. Here's a demonstration of it. Here's Bob. And he comes out at the over end. And they were able to be like, and it totally works. Bob, you here? Yep, I'm here. Right? And all of that. Like, that would be the type of game-changing, humanity-changing technology that, in my opinion, cryptocurrency is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is the internet of money. Mm-hmm. So as much as the internet changed the world, and the internet of money should be able to change it by, like, a factor of 10? I don't know.
And one of the wacky things about it, it will disrupt some of the same things that teleportation itself would disrupt. So you think that's going to change how the oil companies have a stake in reality?
Right.
Okay. Do you think a currency that is completely latched to energy production is going to take it out of the reins of the stupid way of creating energy and into the reins of the smart ways of creating energy?
Yeah. It's all about incentive, right? And that's the other thing. I hope I can, I don't know what the right word is. I hope I can embellish enough for people to take it to heart, is that the amount of effort that you put into trying to be a free person is a lot.
Right.
And when you're being raised, when you're going to school, when your parents are taking you to daycare and, all that stuff growing up, nobody really talks to you about what you have to do to be a free person. There's a lot of rhetoric around freedom, let freedom ring, and like this kind of stuff exists in school, but they don't talk about how. What sort of an effort does a man need to put forth to actually live free, or at least a more freer life?
Right.
And it turns out that's a lot. You have to put a lot of effort into it. But you do it because it's worthwhile. And that's why I like cryptocurrency. I like spending cryptocurrency. I like transacting in cryptocurrency. We've talked...
Every free man is king.
Yes.
Guess what? If you're going to plan the agenda of a nation, it takes like little bit of elbow grease to do it. Yeah, so you've got to custody your own wallet. Yeah, like own your own money. Like actually own your money. Yeah, that literally means you have to run a bank.
All you're really doing...
But it's like beep, boop, bank run.
When you're learning cryptocurrency, maybe for the first time, or maybe you tried to learn and you failed and you're going to try again because you're like, these guys make it sound important. I hope you are. I hope we do, because it is. But if you're in that sort of a realm, you're beginner through third try again, because all you're learning is kind of how banks used to operate, right? Banks would have to, drive a truck full of cash from point A to point B to exchange it for whatever, right?
Right.
Or if, a bunch of customers come in at the same time, they might have an excess surplus of cash. They got to move it from the, bank lobby into the vault. So there's distance to travel, right? So you're just kind of doing that. And everything that you have to learn with cryptocurrency is just sort of like how a guy might manage a bank, right? If he were like a MIC manager. Now, these things it's like managing a McDonald's. These things are cookie cutter, right? Banks behave in a lot of the same ways as other banks, right? Might have a different flavor, or they'll keep a different, security watch so the guys don't rotate at the same time or whatever. Right. They're going to, vary up that kind of stuff. But operationally, they take cash and then they provide some sort of service, whether it's a document or a receipt service or something like that, or a mortgage, that type of a thing.
Right.
So that's the nuts and bolts of it. If you could run a McDonald's, you could probably, be a assistant bank manager for a couple of months or something, right? If you're that on top of it, that you could be a McDonald's MIC manager, you could probably run a bank branch for a month or two without too much trouble.
It's just a different set of policies.
Right. So, but that's kind of what you're learning. You're learning like, how did banks, so if I put some cryptocurrency over here, this guy says I'm going to get this percentage of return within X amount of time. Or wait, no, I need to transact in the USD somehow because, this particular vendor will only take USD. How do I transduce some of my currency into USD without getting raped by the government, for example, on like a taxation? And there's ways for all this to happen already. They exist. You just need to go and investigate them. All of this stuff exists. You could straight up do a crypto mortgage, right? There are companies that exist that were not involved with FTX or in bed with Sam Bankman-Fried that exist where you can pledge, if you have enough cryptocurrency to buy a house, you can go to these businesses and go, hey, at today's value of, this currency, I have enough to buy this house over here on 3rd Street. And they look at that and they go, yep, you sure do. Here's your mortgage. And now it's the same thing as like a 30-year mortgage as you would normally get when you're like a first-time home buyer, you're buying a house. But they do no credit check. And it's all the same terms and conditions as a traditional loan. So for all intents and purposes, it is a traditional loan. The only difference is you've backed it up with cryptocurrency. So you've said, I have enough cryptocurrency that I can buy a house. Here's proof of it. You do have to turn over your keys to them. You have to let them hold your coin, but you can buy property. It's true.
So
commercial and residential.
So you can literally replace their entire credit check system by just having enough crypto for it.
Let's just say you have bad credit, but you got a bunch of crypto.
Well, I mean, what credit is supposed to measure in theory, although it never does anymore, because that would be bad for business and fucked up.
So what does this mean? This means that like loans or financial service companies, banks, or something like a bank that calls itself a financial service company. They don't necessarily have to have a brick and mortar place. They could exist virtually because it's all done, numbers. But essentially, that replaces an exchange. It's just a loan, right? It's a collateral loan. You're familiar with pawn shops.
Mm-hmm.
Pawn shop is where I, as a rock and roll guy, if I'm like short on rent, I need $50 till payday. I'm going to take one of my guitars down to the pawn shop and I'll be like, dude, can you loan me $50 on this? They're like, sure. It'll cost you $75 when you get paid. I'll be like, sure, that's fine. Even though that's an astronomical percentage to pay for that type of a loan. And then you finish that transaction, you get your guitar back and you go home. That's the exact same thing that's happening in my estimation with financial services right now, is that we are in what I call the pawn shop phase, where all these other businesses are trying to interact with cryptocurrency, and the only way they can figure out to do it contractually and voluntarily is by invoking something that resembles a pawn shop contract. It's still a loan, but it's a collateral loan.
Well, a lot of this, like there's this entire towering machine that its whole job was to make it a pain in the ass to cheat. Like you can't stop it entirely, but they made it a pain in the ass. And now we have a system that is literally impossible to cheat.
Yeah.
You literally can't do it. You have to, at the time that you have that you have the full majority of hash power, you are the network.
Yep.
okay, if you are taking on the entire load of the network for a while, then yeah, go ahead. But everything falls out eventually on who has the most energy to put toward this. And as soon as we figure out a better course of work, it all goes away. You can't fake it.
Right.
So entire institutions can be replaced with fairly simple lines of code.
What I enjoy the most right now about knowing about cryptocurrency and continuing to pay attention to like the news of it and that kind of thing. Like sometimes I just want to forget about it because I'm like tired of it, but then something will happen. And like, cryptocurrency has been better than any soap opera, that's for sure. Right. It's been an action movie. It's been an adventure movie. It's been a fantasy movie. It's been like all of these things over the course of its life. But what I really am enjoying right now is the attack that it's taking. Right. And by that, I just mean that like its value dropped a little bit. Right. But Bitcoin is literally like ripping its shirt open, showing the giant B on its chest, and like going as it's bouncing off its chest.
Oh my God, you are correct, sir.
Like,
it's an anti-fragile system.
It's a hell of a description, but what I'm saying is, Bitcoin, by nature of its existence, right, has caused humanity to seek ways to integrate it in any way that it can because it's being prevented from doing so by governments.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's
like quicksand.
It is. It's
the
falling.
More they struggle, like this is why I keep predicting and I keep being right. They're not going to fucking regulate it. There's never going to be a nice, simple, like, here's the regulations now.
You can only regulate
They figured
the
it out pretty quick that every time they hit it, it's a tar baby. Like, your hand gets stuck, and it pulls you in, and you just end up covered in tar and stuck to this thing. You're fucked if you fight it. The more you fight it, it's an anti-fragile system. Like, it's actually gotten this bad because no one's been hitting it. Like, it absorbed the entire technology of the stock market, but then it started absorbing like institutional copies that don't work, and no one was hitting it, so they stuck around like barnacles.
It's an amazing technology. It's only getting started. It is finding a way. It is I don't want to say forcing. It is incentivizing people to innovate. And we've seen this before. When the internet first came on, right? There was a time when websites did not exist. And then out of nowhere, like the internet was a thing, but then out of nowhere, websites were a thing, and all of a sudden the internet took off. Suddenly you had something that like a regular person could kind of comprehend. You had the UI, you had the visual and the tactile, right? The keyboard, the mouse, and the screen. Those are key elements. Cryptocurrency doesn't yet have the keyboard, mouse, and screen. Right? The UI sucks, and that's why crypto is where it is. But all of the attacks that it has been taking on, and it's just like, you can't kill me, kind of a thing, it means that people have not stopped developing for it.
Well, and how did we get websites developed?
Right.
You were motivated by your business to reach out to customers and make it easy to provide them your service.
There's a pioneer effect, too, right? And that is to be, hey, I was one of the ones that was involved way back when. Like, if you know nothing about cryptocurrency and you get involved in it today, you just start reading about it somewhere at like bitcoin.com or something we always advertise for on Free Talk Live. In 10 years from now, you'll be like, yeah, I got into it way back when.
Well, and it's
not advice.
It is a perfect rhyme for the internet. Like, okay, here's what just happened, and like it is a little different, it rhymes, but okay, remember when they all went nuts over the website names? Oh, I've got to get my domain name. This domain name will be worth so much.
Bitcoin is the Beatles of cryptocurrency.
Go on.
Well, so like when you compare like stuff to stuff, sometimes like the Beatles become a comparison, right? So what did the Beatles do? They were given credit for originating, their style of rock and roll, right? And then other people began to imitate that style of rock and roll, and from there, rock and roll grew into a whole bunch of different subgenres. right? One of them was heavy metal, of course, and then heavy metal used to just be one thing, and now it's like 300 things because there's like, it's like the deeper you go, or there's sub-styles and like they all have different names and sub-genres, right? So, to be called the Beatles of something is a compliment, right? You started a thing, so there's also a comedian who does a bit about how things are the Beatles of everything I can't remember right now.
This 2,000 coins that have a market cap worth talking about, or whatever it is. Maybe it's 15,000. Who fucking knows?
I don't know. I feel like it's 5.
That is the market discovering, oh, right, there's an infinite number of names. So paying top dollar for a particular internet name, look at what happened to pets.com. Well, that's a pretty great name right there.
Yep.
Gone. Total crash. Oh, and there's infinite names. It's a language.
Yeah.
We discover, and it's a language, and we're discovering that. And the market's just figuring out, oh, right, there's an infinite number of tokens that you can possibly create, each with its own particular rule set.
I did subscribe to something called, what's it called? Unstoppable Domains. And
yeah.
So, and I've done nothing except buy it because the ad was like, no renewal fees, buy once, have it for the rest of your life. And I'm like, oh, sweet. And so that disincentivized me to do anything with it. So like, I'll get to it eventually, right? I'm paid up. I don't have to worry, so I can do it whenever. Whereas if I had that clock ticking, you got to pay a monthly fee for a thing. If you have that clock ticking, it's a mnemonic that reminds you, if I'm paying for it, I might as well get some work in on it, right? And so ironically,
it's actually like doing the job of money.
Yeah, ironically, the better deal is counterintuitive to everything else in my life right now. I want that to change, which is one of the reasons I bought it, right? Is so that I can have this sort of digital presence everywhere.
Right.
That's the whole deal behind it. And I need to look further into it before I activate it. But it sounded like it was pretty awesome. Do you know anything about it? Do you know anything about Unstoppable Domains?
Too vague. Can't access it. But this whole tokens and different coins, like that whole thing is just overvaluing these things because it's discovering that, oh, right, there's what stocks were supposed to be. Not a bunch of numbers reflecting a bunch of numbers, but like, is there actual human effort behind this thing?
Well, and that's kind of the key to all of this, right? Human effort. I mean, that's what creates value, is human effort. I don't have a great segue, but you sent me a thing you wanted me to play.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I am always willing to talk about, until it becomes, not worth talking about. I would love to keep talking about how do we avoid nuclear Armageddon.
That's a hell of a lead-in. I'm going to go ahead and just play this bit. You let me know when to stop.
Oh, I think it's whole bit.
Mr. Putin is, let me choose my words very carefully. I'm prepared to speak with Mr. Putin if, in fact, there is an interest in him deciding he's looking for a way to end the war. He hasn't done that yet. If that's the case, in consultation with my French and my NATO friends, I'll be happy to sit down with Putin to see what he has in mind. He hasn't done that yet. In the meantime, I think it's absolutely critical what Emmanuel said. We must support the Ukrainian people. The idea that Putin is ever going to defeat...
Whatever.
He
just that first part.
He said some nonsensicalisms there.
Well, yeah, it's Biden.
I know, but I just don't like
He doesn't have an entire brain in his head.
As much as I already don't believe politicians, because he has these stupidisms that he says, I believe and trust him even less. You know, I thought for a while that George Bush, the younger, had the dumbest isms. And in fact, I remember there was a giant poster. I was at a party somewhere. There was a giant poster on the back of a door that had, and I read them all. And I was like, ah! It was one of the most entertaining things I ever did.
Bushisms were so powerful that he had the Marie Antoinette effect, where an SNL skit about him saying strategery. He never said that word, but everyone knew that he said strategery.
Right, yeah.
It was just so in character for him to say a word like that doesn't exist.
Wouldn't be prudent.
That we had his CIA director father, right?
What did Biden say here that you think is important to bring up?
Okay, let's go ahead and do the thing where we don't nuke each other there. Can we do that?
Oh, it's important that he just came out and said this.
Yeah.
That he said he's willing to sit down with Putin if he's willing to end the Ukraine war.
So just putting that out there, everybody.
Did he say that Putin hasn't responded or hasn't reached out? Or, how do we know that Putin hasn't said this? Right? Because I can't get RT unless I fire up a VPN, and I haven't done that recently anyway. But, how do we know? Like, the level of dishonesty that this particular individual is capable of, historically speaking, is I can't believe a goddamn word he's fucking saying.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah.
Like he might be saying something that
that
you think is cool, but I
don't even know whether he's lying or not. Or being coherent, or who the fuck knows? Maybe he's speaking in code. Wouldn't put it past him.
And also, God, does he look horrible? I know this is a podcast, so you can't really see this, but wow. Like when a president becomes president, they age quickly.
Well, would you like would you like the oldest president in U.S. history, or would you like the oldest president in U.S. history?
Well, it used to be for presidents, like, they were already old, and so if they got 10 years older, you didn't notice much.
Well,
because they were already like 70 by the time they got voted in.
Honestly, the position is doing its job. It's where we put what is happening in American culture. He is the perfect symbol of a boomer not fucking letting go of the power. Because your generation, Generation X, and you clued into this pretty quick and got a little jaded, was never handed the reins of power. Because this is a democracy, and they were the biggest voting bloc. So they just kept everything. Mortgage prices kept going up when they owned houses.
Oh, yeah, I kick myself for not having bought property long before I actually bought property. I had opportunities, and I made different decisions, and I stayed a renter, and holy fuck, I should have bought property. And I think we see the same things happening that I've seen, I'm going to say twice now. I've seen two, what I'm going to call giant stair steps of inflation, right? I don't know what else to call it. There's been, this will be the third time. So there's been two prior times. So the first time I had an opportunity to purchase property was in 2005. No, not 2005. 1995. I was going to buy a house, and so I was already pre-approved, first-time buyer program, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Right? I had to write a letter to the mortgage company because I had no credit. I didn't have bad credit. I had no credit at that time. And they're like, well, they don't want to give you the loan unless you write them a really nice letter about why you're going to be responsible and, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote them exactly what they wanted, right? And my mortgage broker, she read it. She was like, that's pretty fucking good. Like, and I was like, I'm trying to get a loan here, So I sucked up to him. I wrote this letter, and I got the loan. And then it was like, if I don't get the specific piece of property I was trying to finance, then I'm going to move to Seattle. And I didn't get it. Somebody else gave a full price offer, and they had the seller had to take it, full price offer on the property contractually. And so I was like, okay, that made my decision. Then I went to Seattle and did heavy metal for 20 years, right? So it was right before that I remember seeing like a jump in prices and stuff, right? And I remember some older people talking about the difference in their salaries and like, oh yeah, well I'm making $25,000 a year, and that was supposed to be bragging, right? And so then I get out to Seattle, and if you're making $25,000 a year in Seattle, then you're poor, right? But it was still relatively, like, even for the area, it was relatively inexpensive. And then like 2008 rolled around,
right?
the banking crisis, right? The bailouts, right? And then all of a sudden, everything was, if you had a $250,000 house in Seattle, it's probably worth $1 million right now. I know a lot of places like 4x'd their market value in the given area, some even more. And it's one of those areas where like everything just, I've seen it skyrocket, man. And so then I moved here in 2019, and I'm looking at the real estate market, and I'm like, oh, this looks really familiar, right? The way that the prices were and how they were going up and at what rate, and the fact that people were freaking out about like $1,200 a month for rent when I moved here. People like, it's so high. And I'm like, it's so cheap. You have no idea. Like, I don't mean this to like slight people who are living here because their rent is cheap. Like, that's why I moved here. Like, one of the reasons anyway, right?
Yeah.
I figured I could take
Cost
advantage
of living.
of the cost of living, like vicariously giving me a raise if my salary maintained the same
y'all
level.
live off in the fucking woods, which means that you have decent prices in your low tax area. It's one of the, it's a litmus test.
Yeah.
That, okay, if you have like an especially low tax, something is causing that.
Right.
And in this case, they just didn't bother updating with all of the newfangled tyranny machinery.
And much to my joy and surprise.
Right.
Like, oh, thank fucking Christ, there's something that kind of sort of resembles something.
The boot is slightly further up on my neck.
Like
gotcha. Thank you. Very nice.
Yeah, like, oh, I can kind of take a couple of breaths now as I fucking choke out and die.
Exactly. It's a kinder, gentler state execution.
Oh, I had so much to say and I lost my train of thought.
So you were talking about how moving out here and it's like 500.
Well,
you can get. Sorry, that's my thought. Is like, dude, you can get it. It's pretty easy to get a place for $500 a month, or at least it was when I moved
moved here. Yeah, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Have you looked?
No.
It's like $1,000, one bedroom. That's kind of. You might find something for less than that if you go to one of these complexes with the cardboard walls.
I pay my rent in crypto.
That's great.
For a decent price to someone that I'm happy. Like the thing about like handing Bitcoin over, I know it's going to go up for a fact.
Yeah.
So who am I enriching?
Right.
Like I feel a sense of accountability on who am I handing my crypto to?
Yeah.
Like who do I want to be a millionaire? Or at least have this much of a donation toward that.
Yeah.
Because it's real money.
Not the minute, but one of the most striking examples that I can think of when I realized just how big cryptocurrency is going to be was I was doing a thing with a band, a little charity show. You get together with musicians that aren't in your band and you put together some covers and you go and play a gig. In fact, this weekend is the anniversary of that. I think there's a thing going on now. But it's a charity thing, right? It goes to benefit like the humane killing or not killing of animals, the shelter, and the food bank, right? All the money, everything goes to them. So nobody gets paid, not even the door guy, right? The bar actually, the bartenders get paid, right? And tips, right? Because they're serving everybody all night. But the musicians just show up and it's their annual, it's like a Christmas gathering for unsigned musicians in the Seattle area. It's really this unique, like, sort of family of people who do music because it's important to them, not because they're getting paid to do it.
Right.
Not because it's their career,
dude.
Right?
Plenty
of kick-ass musicians.
By definition, no one does a charity gig for the money.
Right. But no, I mean, these people are musicians, not for the money. They all have day jobs, right? They're not, it's not their career, but like they're lifetime musicians is what I'm talking about. At any rate, so to say thank you to the people who played with me the last time I played this charity show, I did one of them, download the crypto thing, fill out the card, and put the key on it, and, here's your crypto tip or one of these websites that you could, print up some things. And I just cut the cards out, and I'm like, here you go, guys. This is, like $25 in Bitcoin. Just my way of saying thanks for doing these gigs with me and, the charity thing. They're like, oh, like they couldn't take them out of my hands fast enough. Like,
sweet.
And I was like, now these guys have all laughed at me about cryptocurrency previously. Right? At some point. Now, some of them in a brotherly, joking way, but others in like, you think you're internet money. But like, boy, it sure disappeared out of my fucking hands quick.
Like, yeah, I'm one of those wizards that can run this shit.
So
here, have a wallet. I made it out of nothing.
So like,
and then I put actual labor into it.
Then I move here, and a couple of years go by, and I think I even talked about it on an episode of Free Talk Live at some point. But I go and I look up, what's that worth now? And it was like $250, right? So $25 I gave them at some point turned into $250. Some of them sold it right away. Some of them held onto it, sold it later. But that's when I knew, right? Because here's some people who laughed at the notion, who greedily snatched them out of. I was like, damn, like it was just like 4 coupons, right? And I was like, here, guys, I got you each $25 in Bitcoin, right? Like it was gone after I said, it was that. They were like, fuck, snatching. I'm like, oh,
yeah. So
it's like throwing quarters to children in front of the vending machine.
you cannot get you cannot swap and buy yourself some crypto without paying a fee through any corporation that's willing to offer it, and they will make you pay through the nose.
Mm-hmm.
Like 15% kind of standard.
Yeah.
10%. Yeah. 5%. Wow. Where?
It is kind of a problem. I know we talked a bit last episode of Beard Talk Live. I had this idea that, like, could you build an exchange system into the blockchain that, we'll call it an industry standard, right? Kind of like, what's the thing that gets stamped UL, United Laboratories, right? Like the industry all got together and said, yep, we all agree to this. We all agree to have this thing built into our blockchains that allows, exchange of this cryptocurrency for its current average market value at a zero cost or a very low cost, right? And everybody just builds that into their blockchains from now on. Now you've got an industry standard that everybody can live up to, everybody can implement because it's shared code across every blockchain that exists, and it eliminates the exchanges. Because that's the real problem right now with cryptocurrency, is the exchanges, right? We've got a bottleneck, classic fucking bottleneck. More cryptocurrency wants to move than is currently being allowed to.
Yeah, problem is DeFi is neither decentralized nor finance.
It will be very soon.
Yes.
I mean that
yes, indeed.
In that cryptocurrency is coming to eat it alive.
Mm-hmm.
And to your analogy of like what's been sort of the hammer bashing against cryptocurrency, it's been the exchanges.
Yeah.
The exchanges have been attacking cryptocurrency by trying to facilitate moving Federal Reserve money.
It's like, oh, money. We do this with money. It's like, you don't get it. The whole point is that we don't have a stock market. No, we trade as individuals.
Right.
As people, we just all trade.
Right. I've had this happen to me a number of times living here. I'll agree to sell a used item to a friend or something, and they'll be like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, I don't know, you got Monero? Oh, yeah, sure, I got Monero. What do you want? Oh, I don't know, you got BCH? Yeah, I got BCH, right? Like, it's become a common practice, at least for me, to bump into people and them ask me my choice of cryptocurrency. Well, I'm pretty sure that's unique in the United States. Like, I don't think you're going to get that outside of New Hampshire.
Well, and that's part of the fun. It's part of the trap, actually, is you're going to try and do the stock exchange thing here. It's not going to work because you can't beat free.
Well, no,
and the whole reason that you had this centralized system that someone could charge an interest rate so that you could find each other is because we had to have someone verify.
Right.
And we don't need anyone to ever verify ever again.
So what's the easiest way for someone selling cryptocurrency to advertise that without incurring the wrath of, some sort of a federal agency?
So you go on an encrypted chat.
That's kind of the hole in the market, right?
So you know people and know people who know people and go on an encrypted chat, and then they don't know what you're saying to each other. Right, and from time to time, you might be talking about cryptocurrency. Oh no, talking about talking.
Free speech.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. It's get to know people. How do you trade it? Well, I mean, don't we all have a bit? Well, know someone who has already figured out how to get it. Because, they fuck with the on-ramps, not ramps. And there's all this nonsense going on, so avoid it with people.
So there's a segue. There's something else that I've brought up before, and I just want to talk about it again because
quick
changed.
Plug.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom Cells. I've heard great things about that being one of those ways that people who aren't in New Hampshire, which that's really the solution for me, just come to New Hampshire, know people around that are aware of what the fuck this thing is.
I agree. I live in the future. I'm privileged.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I am here doing this right now, that I'm able to speak into this microphone and that you're able to hear me, those of you who are listening, because I do live in the future. The shit doesn't happen anywhere else, outside of New Hampshire. If it does, we're certainly leaps and bounds in front of the game.
Well,
as a community.
So this is the biggest node, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a network. And this is the biggest physical node of the value network.
Right, technically,
but it goes throughout the earth.
New Hampshire is something else. We've talked about proof of work. We've talked about proof of stake. We talked about proof of violence. New Hampshire is proof of concept. Right, that yes, even here in the United States, with the behemoth of government that exists, right, with the raids, with all the other bullshit that activists have had to put up with.
That is a white pill.
Right. New Hampshire is proof of concept. There are still businesses here who accept cryptocurrency and goldbacks and, all sorts of other things, right? New Hampshire is proof of concept. I can go have dinner and pay for it in cryptocurrency, period.
No, it's a great perspective because I get bogged down about the fact that, America has become this unbearable police state.
New Hampshire is, could be looked at in a way as, the proof of concept of a free market.
Yeah. And a free market, right, even in the middle of a prison state like America.
If you want to think about it in terms of software, it's 1.0, right? Nobody gets the 1.0. Everybody waits until, you've gone through maybe they get the 1.0, but nobody gets the 0.0s, right? We're at probably 0.05 or something right now if this is software revisions, right? And we're just the proof of concept. That's all we are. But we know that things can very easily be replicated. So once something takes off within the technology, we've talked about how it seeps into all the different markets and all that kind of thing. Once something sort of hits and it's like, oh, we can do that? Oh, sweet. It drives a whole wave of innovation towards that thing because a thing's been found that works. And so the continued spread of this technology is only going to increase as it finds more ways to connect people to each other and exchanging value in ways that they've never even considered before. Heavy, I know.
Yeah.
I want to mention, I've mentioned this before, every 3 seconds in the United States, someone is arrested. So I don't know how many seconds are in a 3-hour radio program. How many people got arrested during this show? Every 3 seconds. I'm not going to do the math. You do the math.
That's a black pill right there. Well, and no, that's the same white pill again.
Yeah.
So that is where we're building New Hampshire. It is such a police state that, our government is so unruly, we legitimately suspect that they might launch nukes.
Yeah, and they're not the only one.
No human being wants us to, life itself does not want us to nuke anywhere.
Right.
That's the whole point. This does not go away for thousands of years.
Yep.
You don't take that resource from future generations. That is how unruly our state is.
It's true. It's a fact.
And even here you can do this.
What do you mean?
Even here, you can make a Bitcoin capital of a region. You can create communities that speak to each other. And among their speech is this thing that actually guarantees truth. There's a mathematical guarantee. This has the most work in it.
That's true. Bitcoin specifically, and all the other cryptocurrencies that are have proven themselves worth something, certainly fit that criteria.
And to be able to add that language to your speech,
yeah. I always get upset at Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Did you watch that one?
Oh yeah.
Because the Ferengi.
Phenomenal. Oh, you're going to talk about my favorite scene?
I don't know. All I know is that they seem to me to be the most free market entrepreneurs, but they made them the most hideous cruds.
Yeah, Star Trek is communism.
To ever,
it was originally designed as communism, which at the time was pretty fucking relevant because they're like, hey, we can get along with commies. It's fine. We don't need to nuke each other.
I think
we can have Chekhov right there.
I think they just figured out value. And so, think about that with cryptocurrency. The Star Trek future is possible without the communism.
Yeah, well, it's only possible without the communism.
Okay, but
well,
my point is that.
Actually, I want to bring up some tinfoil shit here for a second. Okay, so a lot of people imagine, what if there's this space emperor empire that we end up dealing with? They're just gonna come and take all our fucking resources, maybe genocide us, and it's like, you don't get it.
That's us. That's what we do.
No. That's the thing. It's too inefficient.
Yeah.
When you have the kind of organization that wastes resources like that. Yeah. It's too inefficient to travel from star to star.
Right.
The distance is too far. You are completely disconnected from everything if you do that.
Yep.
You have to innovate, and there's only one path to innovation. You quit strangling it.
Yeah, cooperation.
Yeah. You don't get a plant to grow by pulling it up.
And it's two things. It's cooperation and motivation, incentive. Right? When people rush to the next thing is when innovation happens, right? Literally, that's when innovation happens, when people are like, oh, wow. New industries are started every time somebody invents something new, right? Name an industry and it didn't exist at some point. And so when that industry is new, it spawns a whole bunch of other sub-industries in and around it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're seeing with cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
The number of cryptocurrency companies really hasn't gone down. In fact, it's probably increased even among the Bankman fraud fucking fiasco, the FTX fiasco.
Mm-hmm. Well, so part of why this hockey sticks so hard is all of the things that it destroys happen all at once. And they're the most powerful forces. So, every new technology has this thing where the existing structure in that niche is at the best benefit for things to stay as they are. So a drastically new technology benefits those furthest away from that way of doing things the most.
Okay.
Now, since this is a new technology in money, and money is one half of every transaction, then it's that for everything. So this whole thing that we've been doing, bye, good riddance, because this is a new technology. So it's going, what's going to explode? Africa.
Yes.
Holy shit,
the
dude.
Unbanked, the however many million?
Wakanda is real, dude.
Is it tens of millions? Hundreds of millions? I don't know, but there is a shit ton of people who are unbanked currently. And guess what the path of least resistance is going to be? It's not going to be, we've suddenly developed a Federal Reserve banking system of our... No. They're all going to have solar-powered cell phone towers and Androids and iPhones in their hands with crypto fucking currency wallets.
So one of the things that so you talk about the user interface, but the fact is that there's also some process level stuff that the technology just doesn't exist yet either.
Yeah.
So that's why all of these exchanges exist at all. We just haven't built the back end where our money finds each other and does the thing where they find ech other for the lowest amount of finding energy that it takes.
Right. like least cost routing. We talked about
like
that.
it's obvious. It's obvious software, but it hasn't been written yet because it's sweat equity that just hasn't been poured into the back end yet. So as these things develop, the people who I have the people on the flip phone are the ones who will get the most drastic increase.
I would like to see one of these exchange companies actually I don't want to say forbid on their platform they never keep your keys. That is to say that I can log into the Peakless exchange and I can go I got $100 of this. I want to trade it for $100 of that. How much does it cost me? Oh, it cost me that much. Okay, make the trade. And then the trade is made, and they do not keep your keys. Like, maybe they got to keep your keys for the 5 seconds or 5 minutes, depending on how the blockchain is acting and what coin you're trying to do. But while that transaction is going, but once the transaction is complete, they refuse to keep it. You must put it on an external storage source, right? I would like to see that, because then they're making their money not by keeping your cryptocurrency and like loaning it out nefariously so they don't have enough. Should there be a run and you want to, all that kind of thing.
There's an easy peasy way of signing
they're
something.
They're still making money. They're still taking a cut of the transaction. They're just not playing around with the billions of dollars of your money.
Well, there's an easy peasy way of signing a transaction without actually spending any crypto. And that'll be proof that here, yes, I have this collateral.
Right.
And if you need to, depending on what the market requires, you can just lock that into a software contract of like, okay, I'm not allowed to sell this to someone else while we're doing this.
Somebody needs to invent a decentralized exchange with an on-ramp from Federal Reserve currency. And it should not be prejudice against which Federal Reserve. I'm talking about all government currencies. Like there needs to be a decentralized exchange that somehow transduces all existing fiat currencies into cryptocurrency.
It's exceedingly difficult and sparse to do that from what I've seen. Like, okay, maybe there's a crypto for this currency that pegs to this. Maybe there's one for this, but it's so terribly easy.
Yeah. So, I had a point.
So the thing is that you're identifying exactly what's going to fall into this black hole. So, like, one of the biggest dynamics of the politics of the European Union versus the United States, for example, a huge part of their thing is like, okay, well, the ECB, acronyms are awful. The European Central Bank.
Yep.
Props up their power to spend money because they facilitate this all these markets across the world,
right?
And that allows them to pull some of the value from the Federal Reserve note. So as soon as this technology you're describing exists, and it's bound to soon, because it's valuable, it's possible.
Yeah.
And it's profitable. As soon as that happens, it's going to completely collapse the European Central Bank.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is the analogy I've always had in my head was that Bitcoin is a vacuum. It's a vacuum cleaner, right? It's not a vacuum in the classic sense of like the space vacuum. I mean, in that it is built to clean up, right? It is going to vacuum up all. Of the government's fiat currencies, all the central bank's currencies. It's going to vacuum all of them up. Now, it will stop vacuuming at some point. And I don't know what to call this tipping point, but let's just say somebody invented a way to do that doesn't care what the denomination is, what kind of currency it is, right? But it can exchange fiat into crypto, no problem. And so all of a sudden, here's a rush of people trying to exchange their fiat into crypto, right? Mm-hmm. And at some point, cryptocurrency...
The Wile E. Coyote moment.
There will be a flippening, I guess, if you will. There'll be a moment
when Wile E. Coyote looks down and waves a sign.
Right, when the vacuum cleaner just turns off and doesn't vacuum up any more fiat currency because fiat currency is worthless.
Right.
So there's going to be a bunch of leftover, like straggling, money sort of floating down that was on its way to get vacuumed up by cryptocurrency, but because it no longer has any value, and this is the tipping point that I'm referring to. At some point, that vacuum cleaner will get to a point where the fiat currencies are no longer worth anything, and so the vacuum cleaner's like, I got to be smart. We're not taking any more of this funny money, right? And now the funny money's worthless.
There will come a time,
and real money takes over.
There will come a time when the banks are kicked off of the really decentralized, really finance system, and just like any other crypto gets kicked off of a centralized on and off ramp.
Yeah.
When they're like, yeah, sorry, you're too little. We don't think that you'll ever recover, and we're not getting that sense from anyone.
That's kind of a good analogy. The difference between analog telephones, right, which is sound running over copper wire, versus digital telephones, which is mostly what we have today. That's sound running, through an A to D converter, traveling as information and being decoded on the other side. That's what the banks are trying to do, right? So when the internet first came out, you had to get these weird CDs. You had to plug your phone line into your computer, and you had to create an account, username and password, all that stuff. That's real super easy for everybody to do now. And you had to run the internet over the existing very narrow bandwidth phone lines, the copper lines. You could only get so much data. Well, as soon as those lines turned to fiber optics, we're talking digital, all of a sudden we had a bottleneck. All of a sudden the bottleneck opened. And right now that's what banks are trying to do. Banks are trying to say, oh, the financial system ran over us, right? The central banks. And we are the analog version of that, even though we have some digital tools that we use. But now we're going to try and be the next thing that comes along, because the financial system always has to run over us. It's the way it's always been. It always has to be that way. Well, no, Bitcoin comes along and says, oh, no, we're the digital version of you, and you're not even necessary. Imagine if the internet said to the phone companies, we don't need you at all. We're laying down our own network. Oh, we're wireless, right? We could transmit through the, just touching a wire to the sky somehow, like, Nikola Tesla said we could do with electricity.
Right.
Right. And just said, sorry, phone company, you're out, you're fucked. That's the banks think they're the phone company, and the banks think that, oh, well, the old ways were analog, and now we're just moving into a digital world, and that's why they think that they can release a central bank digital currency, right? And
you just okay, we can do that,
and then everything, and that's why they're in bed with the exchanges, and they're trying to securitize cryptocurrency and make it into a product that they can put on their stock exchanges and all that shit. And what they don't realize is that they're not even fucking necessary. Everything that a bank does, Bitcoin can do. Right? A lot of it hasn't been developed yet, but the capability exists. Every type of transfer you could ever want to do in your life can be done, and in a fraction of the time at almost zero cost by way of comparison. So while the banks are busy, figuring out, they're blowing each other. Oh, look at our advanced technology. We're coming up with it. It's like, no, you're obsolete. You should quit your fucking job now and go find something useful to do with your time, because banking is not going to be one of those in the very near future. So I predict. My opinion.
Absolutely. And right now we're going through the value proposition. And that's why... I finally got it, and shout out to Cyprian for this one. I finally got it. Oh, people want an anal retentive banker. Because if you look at BTC, they've done visualizations of billiard balls trying to go through a tube,
right? Yeah,
and it's constipated.
It's a series of tubes. Sorry, I just had to get
it can be visualized as, okay, here's your input transaction, here's when it actually gets added, and here's how many you have that aren't added to that blockchain. And it's like, oh, it's a clogged drain.
Yes, bottleneck.
Yeah, it's literally anal retentive. And it blows my mind to be like, you don't want it to be spendable?
Yeah.
Why do you not want it to be spendable? Oh, you want an anal retentive banker. right now you're still unsure that it has value, that it can do its very perfect mathematical purpose.
So cryptocurrency world, I'm talking to you. If you're trying to develop a wallet or a user interface that's multi-coins that everybody can use and have custody, but do it in a user-friendly way, I beg you to invent the you remember the paperclip from Microsoft, the Helpy guy? That, but it's more like Ask Jeeves now. And so it's like this little detective-looking guy, and he can be the actual anal retentive banker for your cryptocurrency, and you have now won the market.
Well, on behalf of people who could theoretically be programming that, fuck you, pay me.
Well, yeah, I'm just putting ideas out there.
Well, and so that's the thing. They're tightening their system. Okay, imagine running your car as fast as it can possibly go. Eventually, something's going to fuck up.
Yeah.
Like your engine will crack or something.
Yeah.
That's what's happening now. Like their system cannot handle a rising interest rate. The entire thing is built on 0% interest. What are you doing?
Everybody gets all super uptight about cryptocurrency too, and I'm just like, it's math. When you go to the grocery store, do you look at the prices of stuff and decide, what's of more value or less value to you, or which one? Oh, I should buy that because it's this much less than it was last week, or it's on sale, or whatever. I usually get this kind, but I'll try this kind because it's a little, I've got some extra money. I'll buy this one. It looks a little better. How do you decide what you like, what your preferences are? You got to try a bunch of things. So it gives the opportunity for you to do that without having to go through a third party that is controlled by an organization of violence.
Right. Well, and more than that, by any third party.
Yeah.
Like,
and
not
it's just
even
math. It's just math.
Not
That's
even
all it
do you
is.
not have to trust the tyrant to do it. You don't even have to trust the benevolent king to do it.
Right.
You just don't have to trust anyone to do it.
If people just demanded everybody to begin accepting cryptocurrency, right? If it were truly a grassroots movement and everybody got together, one day and we're like, hey, you know what? As of today, I'm only taking cryptocurrency.
Well, here's a perfect example, and I am its beneficiary. I get a discount for giving crypto instead of dollars. Just that simple.
Or how about, I remember in the Seattle area before marijuana was recreationally legalized, and even before it was medicinally legalized, they had this thing called Hemp Fest. And once a year, everybody would basically break the law. Smoke weed outside at a concert, right? And a whole bunch of vendors would show up and sell all sorts of things, bongs and T-shirts and Lions of Tigers and Bears online. There'd be bands, local bands, rock bands, national bands would come through from time to time. So I'm wondering if, how do we organize a global Bitcoin day, right? I'm no good at organizing these things. So again, I'm an idea guy. I'm just throwing these things out there. But something like a day where everybody in the world who is into cryptocurrency decides today I'm only spending cryptocurrency.
Right.
Or accepting cryptocurrency. More importantly, actually, I think is the accepting of the cryptocurrency. You have to be willing to take it for whatever it is your business is. And if you're not able to do so, take a day off and conduct some business that you only conduct in Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency of your choice. I don't even care that it's Bitcoin or not, right? The brand is not important.
Hey, I suggested it in time. This Cyber Monday, do a little bit of crypto.
Yeah.
And as it becomes more popular, because they see it's not going away.
Well, Cyber Monday's over already.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
But no, I announced that.
You did suggest last week. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were re-suggesting.
I'm just saying, year upon year, pick a different date. We've got our own special holidays. Pizza Day is one of my favorites. Or Halloween.
Pizza Day would be a good day for it. It really would.
Halloween is white paper day.
It really would. We are out of time. I have something I want to take us out with. Did you have any final thoughts? You good? Okay. I say thanks to our listeners and our callers. Thanks to Mr. Mark Edge for joining us for a period of time. Thanks to you people. I've enjoyed this. I went and saw these guys in concert recently. This is Municipal Waste. The track is called The Thrashing of the Christ.
Master!